across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Right, here we go. Very good evening to you. Welcome. I think we've just got him dressed.
Yeah, man.
He came in a jacket that I could not stand the smell.
Well, it wasn't mine. I just found it lying in the cupboard. I mean,
yeah, but we're a professional TV programme.
I know, but I forgot my jacket. So.
You know, you can't come on the air.
This is nice. I think it's Julia's. Fits me like a glove.
Yeah, probably is. Anyway, welcome to James Whale Friday night, although I don't do the whole show at the moment. You know, I'm slightly ill. But I will definitely be here for an hour and a bit or so. If you would like to call us, the number on the screen any moment now. Why is your name up with me? This is my show.
Yeah, just have my name. And you've spelled his name wrong.
Unleashed.
James Wales.
Yeah, could you send the idiot in here now? Who the hell is doing our...
That doesn't know.
Who the hell? Lana?
Give us
Nana?
a ring, see if we can...
Well, for goodness sake, pull yourself together. If you don't know how to spell my name, you can go. Spell, not smell. I said spell.
Smell his name.
I'm not well, remember. Yeah. Spell my name right or you're out. In fact, you're fired.
Yeah.
It's his first night. I don't care one way or the other. If he hasn't, and can he tell me what I did in 1975? If he doesn't know my full history, he shouldn't be here, should he?
That's this house.
Yeah. Anyway, 0344 499 1000 is the number to ring. I'm in that sort of mood tonight, and I'll tell you why. I'm in that sort of mood for the crap that I've seen being spoken about by journalists. I've never been a big fan of journalists. I'm not a journalist. I'm a what would you call me? A phenomenon?
Yeah, a phenomenon.
And you can be as legend. You can be as rude as you like on social media. I had a great day the other day where I blocked about 100 people.
Yeah. And
it made me feel great.
You do collective blocking, don't you? So anyone with the same name also gets blocked, your first name.
So the fact of the matter is, I'm right in the mood. I've known Nigel Farage for nearly 30 years, as long as I've known you. He is, I can assure you, not someone who thinks he's a messiah. He has probably done more for politics in this country than
he is the most influential
else.
Politician, soon as he's a Brexit.
And so what has happened is, and it happens, I'm sad to say, in all political parties, reform being the newest, and so it's going to take them a long time to get in. So Nigel has now, of course, upset all those people who thought they might be the head of the party, they might be better than him. And quite frankly, you know, we've had Ben Habib on this show quite regularly. And Ben, you're making yourself out to look just sort of petulant. I'm sorry, but you do. And I'm getting fed up with all this infighting in the party. And who released the stories that have gone out at the moment won't have been Reform, because it's doing them more harm than anything else.
There must have been something behind closed doors, and Rupert must have said, "You're right, I've got to do this," because he's getting on a bit. He probably wants to be leader. He's got a taste for it now with all the people getting the adulation. And you see, Lee
Anderson apparently released all the information. So, you know, I think we'll talk about it, but talk about it in a way. Rupert Lowe has been reported to the police for his apparently violent
alleged
bullying.
Yeah, this is all...
You want to see me shouting
all of
at
a sudden it's happened
here.
now. It's, you know what I mean?
Hang on. Just a minute. Tell that whoever does the things in here can't spell my name right. Stop crying.
Yeah, it's Wales.
You know, it's not. There is no S anywhere near it.
Yana.
And I don't want to see Ash's name on the titles again until I'm not in the studio. Okay?
ISHER.
Yeah. So let's talk a bit about reform, because I think what we need in this country is a third political party that actually speaks for the people. And one of the people who has the ability to connect is Nigel Farage. There is nobody else. Could you see Rupert, what's his name, doing it?
He was making a connection, but he doesn't have the longevity, the background.
He doesn't have the look, the personality or anything else. But that aside,
He's very good. He's very good.
If the Tories hadn't got rid of Boris, they'd probably be in power now.
Well, that was a disgrace, because that's what the people voted in, and they shouldn't be allowed to just... We vote someone in and they can just get them out and put someone crap in like they have.
Let's get on with the programme. So call me on the number on the screen now.
Yeah.
0344 499 1000. And just to anybody new working on the show, if you don't listen to every word I say, you will get into real trouble. So there's no time to look at football if there's on another channel.
Nervous listeners had better leave the room now or under 18s.
Yeah, that's a good thing. Because Ofcom get really upset when they get all the complaints about us.
Yeah.
So if you're easily upset, triggered, or any of those other things, then
leave the room.
Leave the room. Don't listen.
Quietly.
So Reform UK has suspended Rupert Lowe. Wouldn't do that, unless it was serious, really, would they? They only got 5
that's what
MPs.
he's tweeted. Yeah.
The party has appointed a lawyer to conduct an investigation. Bit of a shame. Why on earth they couldn't they're a small party of 5 MPs. They couldn't sit down in a room and sort this out. I have no idea. Rupert Lowe says the allegations are untrue and false, and it follows his criticism of Nigel Farage yesterday when he questioned his leadership and called Reform a protest party. I read that story about him, double page in the in the Mail, and it just made Rupert Lowe look like an idiot. In my view, that's my view.
They must have already been behind closed doors, some argument that they couldn't settle.
Yeah, looked like a spoilt child, to be honest, and making statements like to sort out the problem with the illegals breaking into this country, put them all on a Scottish island and let the mosquitoes do the rest. I mean, a pretty facile thing to say. So those are some of my thoughts. What are yours? Mark Francois, our very good friend from the Conservatives, a decent member of the Conservative Party, joins us now. Mark, good evening.
Good evening, James. Good evening, Ash. How are you?
We're good. How are you?
Yeah, bearing up, I think.
How on earth? Look at him. He's lost weight.
Yeah, looking great. Have you been on that that stuff that you can get now? That everyone's lost weight?
It's been a little bit of work in the gym. There's
they
no
all say that.
involved anywhere, I can assure you.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I would know. If I've been jabbing myself with something, I'd know, James. So I can assure you.
I didn't want to talk about this, Mark, but I was taken by surprise, and you look good, right? You're
good. Very kind.
Yeah.
Well, I've been taken by surprise too, James, because when I agreed with your producers a week ago to come on, I didn't realise that the main breaking story a week later would be all the stuff you've been talking about with Reform. I thought we'd probably be talking about Ukraine, was my guess, but there we are.
Well, we can do a little bit about that, but because the big story at the moment, and I'm sure you will agree, is what is going on. Now, I've been a friend of Nigel's for a long time. I've known him since the early UKIP days and before that. And he's a good guy. He believes in trying to make this country great again. Whether he can do it without the Tories, without a coalition, I don't know. But there are problems, aren't there, in politics where unfortunately, your arrogance begins to settle in and people begin to think they're better than the next one or better than the one up there. And then you get egos. And when you get the egos fighting, there's very little you can do.
Look, I'm not going to pretend to your viewers that there have been no internal arguments in the Conservative Party over the last decade. I wouldn't insult their intelligence, James, by trying to put that across. But it does seem as if this has now begun to occur in Reform. And, for whatever reason, suddenly, their parliamentary party has shrunk by 20% today. And that's a bit of a problem for any political party. I've not known Nigel as long as you, but I've known him for many years. I think on a personal level, we've always pretty much got on. But his management style, I think it's fair to say, has always been my way or the highway. And surely that's better. Because look at what the Tories had done in the past. I mean, we won't go into it, but they had a go about you at one point. Then, of course, they got rid of a number of leaders in succession. They behaved appallingly. So if that isn't my way or the highway...
Yeah, Trump did that, Thatcher did that, even Blair did that. Whatever you think of them, they were the most high-profile, charismatic leaders, and they all were my way or the highway.
Yeah.
Well, James, in fairness, I did say, like 2 minutes ago, I wasn't going to try and pretend there had never been been any disputes in the Conservative Party.
But can a political party ever exist without these disputes?
Well, perhaps it's the nature of politics that if people have strong views and believe passionately in things, sometimes they're going to come into conflict with other people that have strong views and believe passionately, even within their own party. So we'll just have to see how this pans out.
There must be discontent in your party at the moment, bubbling under, with Kemi Badenoch proving to be a sort of useless, busted flush. She's not really turned out right, has she? How we all expected.
How dare you be so rude?
Ash, I think she's doing okay, and you have to give her a chance. I mean, look,
she gets a lot of chances, but she doesn't meet them, does she? Come on, Mark. She's pretty useless at Prime Minister's
She wouldn't leave the
questions.
ECHR, she said. I mean, that was a bad start.
Ash, we're not the party that's been promised $100 million by Elon Musk that never turned up.
I think everything Elon Musk does say at the moment never seems to come to anything, but who knows where that's going to lead. We'll talk a bit about Ukraine and our relationship with America in a moment. But let's get back to this. Somebody somewhere could be a Tory, could have been a Labour, could have been one of those. I don't even know what the point of the Lib Dems is at the moment, but anyway, could have been one of them who leaked this story. Because, well, you say it was Lee Anderson, but I can't believe anybody in the Reform thought leaking this story would do them any good. Oh, right, OK.
Well, I've no idea.
Oh, they removed the whip, OK.
You're
right, actually.
As I understand it, James, I mean, I don't understand all the inner workings of Reform, but as I understand it, Lee Anderson as the chief whip, and I think the party chairman, issued a formal statement sometime today saying they'd withdrawn the whip from Rupert Lowe. Now, I don't understand all the background to all of that, but it is fair to say it's been an open secret at Westminster for some months that Nigel and Rupert, for whatever reason, don't get on. They had a daft spat over a 10-minute rule bill a little while ago. So, it's not giving away the Trident codes to say that Nigel and Rupert don't get on. Rupert gave this quite punchy interview a day or so ago to the Mail, I think, when he was quite critical.
It was like a little spoilt brat giving an interview.
Well, for whatever reason, he did that, and now suddenly he's had the whip withdrawn. I don't understand all the inner workings, but he did make one point, actually, that I'd like to dwell on, because I think it's important. When he said, Rupert said, Reform, if they're going to be taken seriously, have to develop a front bench. So what he meant by that is, they need to assign particular responsibilities to different MPs. So they could specialise in important areas of policy. So I'll give you one example. I'm the Shadow Armed Forces Minister. As far as I know, Reform don't have a defence spokesman. So sometimes when we've had defence debates or statements or urgent questions in the Commons, either no one from Reform has turned up, or if they have turned up, they've not said anything.
It's because they've only got 5, isn't it?
Yes, but hang on, guys, both of you.
No, this is why it's important, and I'm following up Rupert Lowe's point, not my original point.
Go on.
But if you're going to be a party of government, you've got to have people that take some policy responsibilities.
And I think you'll find Nigel Farage, who I invited on the show tonight, but he said, I don't want to make any more statements. I don't want to be involved in this. I've made a statement. I've put it out there. And I wish people would realise, we're to set up a political party. And I'm, when I come to vote at the next election, I probably won't be here for the next election, but I haven't decided. I'm not coming down on one party side or the other. What I am coming down on is the fact that Nigel Farage has made more of a how would you put
a difference? I mean, he's been the most influential politician this millennium, even though he hasn't actually been an MP or in government.
Well, Ash, to your point, I mean, as James will know, forgive the plug, but I wrote a book a few years ago called Spartan Victory, all about the Brexit battles in Parliament. And I said in that book, if Nigel Farage had never been born, if he'd never existed, we'd probably still be in the European Union. And I believe that to be true, which is why I wrote it. So I've not come on tonight to do lots of knocking copy on Nigel.
No, I know.
But the hypocrisy of Keir Starmer.
I've tried to answer your. But I come back to my point. Sorry,
no, go on.
I'm going to press this.
Yeah.
Who is? We're talking about Ukraine. We're talking about the defence budget. These are really serious issues. Earlier today, the Polish Prime Minister announced they're going to introduce conscription.
Yep.
That's a massive development in Poland.
I know.
Who's Reform's defence spokesman, please?
I totally agree. And setting up a new political party is not as easy as people think. And you can't, because people have got to be checked. You've got to work out who would be the right person. And unfortunately, there are some people get into political parties, go on about how they're good at this and everything else. And Nigel will try and find the right people. He's unfortunately made a couple of them. Well, he hasn't.
But they've got 4 years to sort it out. So it's come early enough for them to sort it out.
No, Ash, with respect, they don't. Because, we're debating Ukraine in Parliament now. We're not going to wait 4 years to debate national security and the defence of the realm. I want to know who's their defence specialist on Monday.
OK. I'm going to send Nigel a little message
We'll
and
ask him. Yeah, we'll find out and let you know.
Right.
First of all, let's talk. And if you've got a view on Nigel, it seems as soon as somebody gets criticised, like Nigel is, and he is being attacked from all sides of the political spectrum because he is a charismatic figure, and he's,
like Trump.
Yeah, exactly. But how soon people forget and become really rude. You can be as rude as you like to me. I couldn't care less. And when I'm bored, I'll sit there and block anybody who comes on X and has a go. So I keep looking up there because there's a bigger picture of you up there, Mark, and it's so nice to see your new slim self. The fact is that we are in a dangerous situation as far as world security is concerned. Now, I'll be honest, I have a very close member of my family who has just joined the armed services, and I'm very proud of him, and we should be proud of all our troops. But we don't have enough. We've never had enough, and I blame the Tories and I blame the Labour Party. I blame the Liberal Democrats as well for not backing this up. We shouldn't be giving money to foreign countries. We shouldn't be giving money to illegals coming here. We should actually be making ourselves a safe nation that can protect ourselves. And I think that is where we're at the moment. And had it not been for Donald Trump, I don't think we'd have been taking the situation as seriously as we are now. Mark.
OK, well, just to round off what we were saying earlier, I hope your viewers, if they're fair-minded, would say I haven't come on here tonight to slag Nigel.
No, I don't believe you have.
I paid him a compliment.
Yeah.
So I was talking about the Reform Party. But look, on the defence point, yes, look, Trump has a point in that when in his first term, he said repeatedly that NATO members should increase their defence spending. The world knows he's a keen golfer, James, so he's often used the analogy, the simple but straightforward one: you join a golf club, you pay the membership fee.
Yeah.
And the fee, if you like, was 2%. Now, at the time he began making this argument, there were 4 European NATO members that paid or spent 2% of GDP on defence. We were one of them, by the way.
Yeah.
But now there are 23. So you could argue that he's got his point across. We've got the next NATO summit is in The Hague from memory, the 24th to the 26th of June. So a little over 3 months away. We've announced we're increasing our defence spending. Macron gave a speech last night. I don't think he put a figure on it, but he clearly said it's going to go up quite a lot. Merz, the new German Chancellor, has said the same. In Germany, they're going to relax what they call the debt brake so that if necessary, they can borrow more money to spend on defence. So you can see among the biggest countries in NATO Europe, the trend is very much upwards.
Why? So but Trump's got the right idea. We need peace. We can't go to war with Russia.
No.
Well, look.
Listen, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Take a quick break and come back because we were going to end it here. Can you wait for a little while?
Most certainly, James.
Good.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Right, welcome back. We're talking with Mark Francois, a Conservative Member of Parliament. Mark, just to sort of finish off our chat together, we've talked about Nigel and reform. We're going to go and talk about that with Michael Fabricant in a moment. I'm sure a good friend of yours.
Absolutely, give my regards.
I will. And just for us to finish off about what is happening with Russia, Ukraine, America, and us, and a little organisation called Europe, or the European dictatorship, as I like to call them. How dangerous a world are we in at the moment? Question one. And question two, can Trump actually bring Russia and Ukraine together?
Well, question one, yes, we are in a dangerous world. And the reason I believe it's very important that we support Ukraine is because Putin's made no secret down the years of the fact he wants to recreate something akin to the old Soviet Union. He believes that includes Ukraine. He believes that includes the Baltic states. So
if Trump's got a mineral deal with his US commercial interests there, that will protect it, because you won't want to take on the USA.
Let's see, because the thing is, Ash, everybody's talking as if we'd already got a peace agreement. We don't yet. Yeah. You know, it's still to be negotiated. And we had a debate about this in the Commons last week, and there was overwhelming cross-party support for the proposition that there should be no negotiations about Ukraine without Ukraine. You know, you can't just do a deal over their head after everything that they've been.
But you also can't beat Russia in a war.
Guys, if it's going to save the world, I think you can.
Yeah. How are you going to beat Russia? It's a nuclear power. It's the biggest nuclear power in the world.
Well, look, I mean, this is part of the reason Ukraine got into the situation it was in. 1994, they gave up their nuclear weapons.
Yeah.
The ones
that was checkmate.
That
was curtains, wasn't it?
Well, no, hang on, Ash. This is important, if I may. And in return, there was a thing called the Budapest Agreement, where a number of nations, including Russia, promised to respect their territorial integrity, right? So they disarmed their nuclear weapons. By the way, James, you don't see many C&D badges in the House of Commons anymore these days. There's a reason for that.
No,
right?
I'm glad to see it.
Even Corbyn's not wearing one. So then, you know, Putin broke his word.
Yeah.
He invaded in 2014.
Let me, because I'm running out of time, Mark. I'm not against you. I'm just running out of time.
I'm sorry.
Just no, it's not your fault. It's my producer's fault.
It's Michael Fabricant's fault.
The question, the last one I want to know from you is, do we just give in or do we keep fighting? And if we keep fighting till the very end, what is the point of all those dead people, possibly even in this country? Because, you know, if we carry on the way that we are, then nothing is going to be settled. And I'm sorry, but in my view anyway, and I've got friends in the armed forces, not only relatives but friends, in my view, people's lives are being wasted at the moment.
James, if I may, I'll turn your question round the other way.
Yeah.
If we were to surrender to what Putin wants, what did all those Ukrainians die for?
No, we can't do that. I didn't mean that, and I hope it didn't come across.
Yeah, but
like
the First World War, we had it.
With this. I know. I don't want to keep Michael waiting. There was a famous admiral in the First World War called Admiral Sir Jackie Fisher. He was the first Sea Lord, and he said ultimately all nations desire peace, but peace on their terms. After all this blood and sacrifice, what we cannot allow is peace on Putin's terms.
I agree.
If he gets that,
I totally agree.
And he'll have another go.
But we need to sort it out, and we need for Russia to know, like I think that Trump said today, that if they don't stop their bombing and stop behaving like that, there will be mega trouble or something along those lines. Listen, talk to me again soon, will you, Mark?
Yeah.
Certainly, it's been a pleasure, and it's always nice to chat to you and Ash, James. It's good to see you in that chair.
Well, thank you very much indeed, sir. And
put some weight on for next time.
No, don't do. You stay the way you are. Right, let's get back to Farage, reform, and the rest of the political society, because that is what everybody wants to talk to us about tonight. We'll go to the calls in a moment. 0344 499 1000. First, Mr. Fabricant, nice to have you on the programme tonight as well. What is going on? Reform really can't think that they have done themselves any good releasing this story.
Well, it never helps when you've got division, does it?
No.
But the bottom line is quite interesting, I think. The events that happened with Rupert Lowe happened almost 3 months ago, on Friday the 13th of December, yet it was only yesterday that Nigel Farage decided to, or the party, the Reform, decided to make a complaint. And that seemed to follow the bust-up between Nigel Farage and Rupert Lowe. So anyway,
well, after what he wrote in the Mail, I think I would have had a bust-up with him as well. But Nigel's not really like that. Nigel knows better than to bring the weight of journalistic criticism down, because what happens is journalists get, I'm not a journalist, but journalists get themselves so excited about these things that they go mental, and they just write, you say something, they'll twist it round. I've seen it's happened about me, things I've said on the programme, they just turn them around, and suddenly I'm a Donald Trump deserter.
And that's your own
whatever.
newspaper group.
Yeah, well, no, they're fine, but I'm not one of those people who actually believes a lot of things I read or hear or see, and I'm in the middle of it, so I know, and I can say something, it'll be taken completely the wrong way. And as soon as somebody reads it, whether it's online or in a paper, when people read a story, they put more. It's
all out of context
behind it, don't they?
Yes, that was a long question.
Yeah, sorry,
but I agree with the statement.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on it anyway? Don't let me waffle on.
What about the Farage thing? Well,
yeah.
I mean, the trouble is, as Mark Francois was saying earlier on, I mean, Nigel likes being in total control. And it's a funny old setup, his party, because they changed the rules. And if I remember correctly, and I do, whereas in the Conservative Party, I think it's a 15% can put down to say that they want a vote of no confidence. In his party, it's 51%. And you think, well, if 51% have to put down that they've got a vote of no confidence, you've already had the vote. Because if 51% say they want to vote because they don't have confidence, basically they've set the target so high. What a lot of people are moaning about in Reform is that it's not really a democratic party in the normal sense of the word. It's more of a sort of...
But don't you have to have one dominant person like with Trump and like you had in Thatcher in the 70s?
I mean, look at that. Hang on. Yeah, you're right. Absolutely right. But look at the mess you lot made. We got... a
million a year net.
Yeah,
immigration when you promised 50,000. I mean,
and then everything went wrong.
Well, that was stupid of us.
You start sacking each leader you have.
That's why Reform exists.
Yeah, it was like Rishi Sunak saying, and he now admits he was completely wrong. I mean, I told him at the time.
And Boris Johnson.
It was wrong to say, shut up, Ash. I agree with James, who always tells you to shut up.
Yeah, you do it as well.
Not you as
anyway,
well,
I was going to say that, it's like Rishi Sunak saying, we'll stop the boats. And now he's saying, well, yeah, I shouldn't have been so binary. And I could tell at the time, there's no way we were going to be able to stop the boats, maybe reduce the numbers. And I see that...
well, you could stop the boats
if more boats coming.
Yeah.
Sorry, I can't really hear you when I'm talking. But
oh, so sorry.
I was just going to say... I'll stop in a sec. I was just going to say that there have now been more boats crossing in the last 3 months than ever previously.
Yeah, but you can stop
because
them.
we got rid of the Rwanda threat.
You can stop them. It will be easy. You put
How?
the Navy in the Channel. No, you do.
No, the Royal Navy say impossible. And let me tell you
Give them
why.
an order.
And it's really stupid when people say this because they have no understanding.
I'm
and the
sorry,
reason why the Navy
Michael.
say it's
We stop the
impossible
Nazis.
is first, shut up. First of all, it's because you can't actually detect the boats. They're so low in the water.
Yeah,
That's why the
drones.
Royal
You
Navy-
use drones and new technology.
Oh,
it's
not
easy
e-
to do.
It's not easy. The Royal Navy... Listen, are you the expert
they
for
were-
the Royal
No,
Navy?
I spoke to
They
Rear
say
Admiral
they
Chris,
can't
and
do
he
it.
said it can be done with about 30 drones.
Yeah.
AI, automatic.
I think the
anyway,
people...
Parry,
even
Rear
if you
Admiral
do
Chris
it,
Parry.
Just one at a time.
Have a listen. Even if
Shut
you
up,
could,
Michael.
the Royal Navy say the boats are so unstable that if you try and push them, the boats would capsize and then they'd have to rescue them all anyway.
So if they were coming over here armed and invading the country unarmed, would you be that open to it? These people are coming here illegal.
Take them on our boat and lock them up.
I'm just telling you the reality.
Take them on the boat and lock them up and say you're not ever getting citizenship. You can find a way to get back to somewhere else, but until then you're not coming in our society.
Yeah, I agree with that.
That's how you sort
and
it
put
out.
them in a hotel and give them money and food.
Yeah,
while
not a hotel.
we have people of ours who are sleeping on the
death.
streets and freezing to death. It's appalling.
Yeah, totally agree. I'm just saying the methods you're talking about are just completely impractical.
But the one I said is practical. Just put them...
we can have drones flying. It just doesn't work.
Well, in that case, anybody can invade us. We can be invaded easily.
Well, how did the Nazis not use that idea?
If we were invaded, we'd be invaded by big ships, and they are detectable. They're not stealthy. But the reason
we
why
wouldn't
the
if we're going to be
Royal
invaded
Commandos
now
use
because
rubber boats is because
Michael,
they're not detectable.
Quiet now for a minute, Michael. Let me have a say. If you're saying you could invade with these small boats like they are now, they couldn't be detected, that's exactly the way people will do it. And you set out a few hundred of those small boats.
The Nazis couldn't have got in if they had small boats, could they? They would have been detected.
If the Nazis had come across in small rubber boats, they wouldn't have had any weapons, would they? Because rubber boats sink. They can barely
No, they're
carry
quite big
the
rubber
people
boats. They
they're in.
carry 60 people now.
Anyway, all right, listen. Let us continue this at another time. There's going to be over the weekend some pretty interesting arguments. I can see that. Thank you very much indeed, Michael. I love you, and I think
Thanks,
you look
Mark.
remarkably good. I did say that to Mark Francois. Got a nice tan. Hair looks great. Thank you very much. See you soon. Michael Fabricant, Conservative MP, former Conservative MP. Right, we're running a poll at the moment, apparently, I'm told.
On Twitter,
Over 4,000 people have taken part in it. Yeah. Who do you support, Nigel or Rupert? And apparently the vast majority of people support Rupert. I really don't understand.
Rupert Lowe, 82% support.
Why? I don't understand it. What if suddenly you all decided you don't like Nigel? You're being manipulated.
Well, a lot of people are saying Nigel slightly switched. He's gone a bit more ECHR and against what he was saying at the beginning. And
no,
obviously
he hasn't. He's got to do this while he's an elected member of the House.
It's a balancing act, isn't it? It is a balancing act.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a balancing act. You're right. You're totally right.
There was a Tommy Robinson thing.
Yeah. Okay, let's... Farage isn't the Messiah. He's a very naughty boy, says Kev. Rhea. Okay. Let's take a break. Oh dear, I'm in trouble now. Yeah. Michael, so sorry, I didn't have enough time I'm so sorry, and I forgot to call you sir.
Yes.
But then you didn't call me James Whale OBE, did he? Or MBE?
Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah,
that's how it works in this game.
I've got the badge to remind people as well. No, Ash is just Ash.
Monster Raving Loony Party on Honours list.
Yeah. No, Michael, sorry about that. I forgot your title and how rude
it's
of
new,
me.
isn't it? It's new. We're not used to it. We're not used to it.
I was expecting a lordship, but it never
it's
happened.
in the post.
Yeah. Right, let's take the calls, and I've lost everything on here. I can't see anything since our producer...
Give me the mouse, let me have a go.
Our producer, Chuck, came in, and
Here we
he's
go,
not very technically minded, Chuck, is he? To be honest, he's not... We've done that. If you listen to the show... No. We did the poll results... And Nigel is very...
There we go, look. There we go.
Let's do Matthew in Devon, first of all. I like Devon. Matthew.
Wow.
Evening, James and Ash.
Matthew, let's get to the point. What do you want?
Yeah, I'm a Reform member. Without Nigel Farage, Reform wouldn't exist.
You're right.
And I respect Rupert Lowe. He talks a lot of sense, and, you know, he's a great guy. But I think he's totally wrong here, because ultimately, all these people today, the last few hours slating Nigel Farage, all of a sudden, they haven't a clue what they're talking about. Without Nigel, this party would not exist. I would not be a member of this party without Nigel, and a lot of my friends who are now Reform members, former Tories, would not be members. So I just don't understand what he's trying to achieve here, Rupert Lowe. I just think he needs to get down from the high stool he's suddenly put himself upon, and get back supporting Nigel. Let's get Reform into power, get rid of Labour. The Tories don't know what they're doing. I just can't understand what Rupert Lowe's trying to do.
I think it's egos, isn't it? Because he ran a business, he wants to be the top of the tree, got a lot of adulation in the last few months, and he was getting a taste for it and thinking, I'm getting on a bit, I need to be leader for the next election.
I think Elon Musk and co, praising him a month or two ago, has gone to his head a little bit.
Yeah.
And like I say, I respect him a lot. He's a great guy and he talks a lot of sense. But look, Nigel is the king, and he is.
I agree. But I think what Rupert wrote, or the interview he gave in the Mail, made him look just like a spoilt brat.
But there must have been something in behind closed doors that happened for him to do that.
He's acted like a petulant little spoilt brat, as you say. I completely agree, James. And people I spoke to tonight in the pub, who are all Reform people, by the way, think exactly the same. They just can't understand what Rupert Lowe's doing, you know.
And I think the way you actually said it, Matthew, is right. The fact that suddenly, you know, people just turn against Nigel. If it hadn't been for Nigel starting Reform or going to Reform, he didn't start it
in the first
going
place.
to it, because when I spoke to him at one point, he wasn't going to go back into politics. Yeah. His future was going to be in broadcasting, probably in America. But he then suddenly thought, people asked him, and he said, all right, well, let's try one more time. And he's made a remarkable difference. Whether you agree with his politics or not is immaterial, but he's got people thinking, which is the
And he's the only hope against the Uniparty.
I think he's great, and I think he's the only viable option, James, to what we've got at the moment, because Labour are completely useless, as we all know. Yeah. The Tories, Kemi Badenoch, I've said it to you before, she's completely useless. So we've got to stick with Nigel, in my opinion, and support him.
Matthew, thank you for that. Let's talk to Robert, who is in Hertfordshire.
Bob.
Why do you call him Hertfordshire Bob?
I don't know. It's like I can't help.
Robert, what can we do for you?
I am a fully paid-up member of Reform. I don't trust Rupert Lowe. I think there's a bit of a Judas there. If he doesn't stab Nigel in the back now, he will do somewhere along the line. But I'd like you to clarify something, which I'm reading, what is quite worrying. Is it true that Nigel was willing to sanction the return of Shamina Begum to this country?
No, not as far as I know.
I did read something, but we'll check that out.
Not as far as I know, but I did say...
Well, Trump wanted it, didn't he? So he might have...
I said, well, she was a British citizen. She was born here, brought up here. As a child of 15, went over there, was obviously groomed online. And it surely is for us to deal with that, rather than say, we're not dealing with it. We're not having her back in our country.
She's not a British citizen. They took it off her.
Yeah.
So...
So it seems that we
wouldn't deal with her. She'd get out. Look at the activist judges. If she went to American courts, she'd be in a supermax prison if she was tried there. But Seb Gorka saying we should try. She'd be let out, and we'd have to watch her 24 hours a day, and she'd become a celebrity.
But Nigel, I don't think said that at all. You might have heard me say it.
No.
I think I did hear something because of Trump. It was something to do.
If that was the case, I would rip my membership up tonight.
Well, I think you should think what I just said, Robert. She, whether you like it or not, because somebody goes and does what they do, we should take responsibility for it. We should have her over here. We should be punishing her and not turning her into a celebrity.
He does, yeah. Farage did say we should consider allowing Shamima Begum back home.
Well, when he says back home, and you're Googling that.
He says, I've never... Well, it's it's on a reputable site. He says, I've instinctively never wanted her, but I'm thoughtful. I don't classify her as an ISIS, an all-out ISIS killer. But she was happy to... If she didn't care about looking at buckets with beheaded people in them.
These are children who are being groomed by appalling, horrible, filthy...
But you have responsibility in the law when you're 15. And she carried on when she was 20, up to 20.
In my mind, she's a terrorist sympathiser.
Yeah,
she's a terrorist.
So you can keep the migrants out, but let terrorist sympathisers back in.
I'm sorry, but she was born and bred in this country, and we ought to be punishing her rather than leaving her somewhere else.
We wouldn't, would we? They'd let her out.
To be fair, with all the things going on in the world at the moment, Rupert, I couldn't care less.
Bigger fish to fry, Rupert.
Well, do you think that'd be popular with the Reform members?
Robert. Was it
Robert?
Rob, yeah.
You can call me Rupert, I don't mind.
Rob, thanks very much indeed. Let's talk to Phil in Worthing. Phil.
Oh, good evening, James. Good evening, Ash. Just wondering, James, what do you think of the chances that Trump has possibly allowed... had a deal behind the scenes with Russia to allow them to take Odessa to shut off the Black Sea before they have a peace deal. As you know, that'll take a few weeks.
I think you should stop going on those websites and reading these stories and grow up. Thank you, Phil. Let's talk to Leslie, who's in Wellingborough. Leslie. Come on, guys. What are you doing? Well, then get Leslie off and get another one. Wayne, hello.
Hello, guys.
Wayne.
I have
slow.
A beer with.
Talk. I'm sorry. No, I'm shouting at the people working for me, under me, with me. Slow. Gosh.
It's the Lincolnshire poacher, isn't it?
Is it?
I'm just going to say, be chef. Now, James. Now you realise who I am.
You're lucky he doesn't.
I was having a beer with Nigel and Richard a couple of months ago, so I'm part reform. But I've just passed an idea about it. How about now, Rupert's gone, we get our mate Ben back in? Good opportunity, you think?
But they've fallen out a bit as well, haven't they?
Yeah, but he was good, though, Ash, wasn't he?
Yeah, but look at Lee Anderson and Ben had a big spat the other day, didn't they?
Yeah, but come on, we all spit a dummy out and met friends again.
Yeah, but wouldn't it just be jumping out the fireplace into the fire? You know, they do get rid of Rupert.
Who was... Hang on. I've got him talking to me. I'm trying to listen to flipping Wayne.
He's talking about getting Ben back in.
Shut up a minute. Who was... I heard Ben Habib. He didn't destroy Nigel. He didn't. He just talked like another petulant child who's obviously somebody who thinks they should lead... They think he should be the leader.
I hope he hasn't heard that.
I don't care anymore. I'm getting sick and tired of these people within a political party started by... I have to admit, Nigel's an old friend of mine. And,
James, your guest last week.
Sorry?
He was your guest last week.
Well, I have loads of guests I fall out with. And I think that Ben Habib has behaved badly. And I've told Ben to his face... on this programme.
Oh, poor Ben.
All right, thanks, Wayne. Leslie.
Gentlemen.
James and Ash.
All right, man. Where were you? We just got... You weren't there.
Can we get to the point? Got hundreds of calls.
No, I was. Okay.
You weren't.
All right, then.
Leslie, ignore him.
Right. Look, I don't know Trump if he's playing a hand of cards with Putin. Trump has mentioned cards in his talks. When it looks like he's aligning America with Russia, must be just gameplay.
Well, it is all about that, really. That's geopolitics.
Yeah. It is, isn't it?
Is that all you've got to
carry on,
say?
or
Leslie,
what?
no, I've had enough. Pat, London.
Oh,
He was better when he wasn't saying. No.
Yeah, you were just a bit dull. Pat.
Yeah, the thing is, guys, but if Reform was to form the next government in 2029 or whenever the next election comes around, they would have to have people in place that can control the civil service and the unions. Like, the fact is Maggie Thatcher made the unions a bit pretty toothless.
It takes you a lot longer than a couple of years to get a political party established. And, you know, there is the very slim chance that maybe the Tories and Reform could get together before the next election. And then there's a chance that suddenly Nigel may be voted in as the head and he could become Prime Minister. But the chances are that it's going to take Reform most of this Parliament to get themselves set up properly as a political party. It's not an easy thing to do.
And then they'd have to reform the whole law and undo what Blair did in 97.
And the other political parties are so worried that they are going in for the kill now.
They'll be loving this at the moment.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm saying. Over in America, their system is different, and Trump signed a load of executive orders, which a Prime Minister like, say, Nigel Farage, if he ever was to be Prime Minister, couldn't do.
No,
he could with a majority. Starmer could do what he wants now with his majority, or they get the whip taken of him. So that's not true. They could come in and do exactly what Trump's doing.
Yeah, but the point is, while you've got Starmer and his cronies in, you ain't gonna get no strikes, because what they'll do is they'll give the striking people, you know, all what they want. But you probably get Nigel Farage and Reform stroke Conservatives not doing that.
Yeah.
So there'd be strikes all over the place. I mean, Rwanda was a pretty good idea until the civil service,
Well, the civil service need to be controlled. They are out of hand, as far as I can see.
Blair gave them too much power.
Exactly. And this whole business now, we are seeing, and it's amazing to me that there are lots of very mouthy people who know nothing. You see them standing around in pubs, you know, with a hand on the hip and a glass of beer, going, "Yeah, well, I know what I do," or "Yes, I know what I do."
But the hypocrisy
and
of
they all know
Starmer.
better than the MPs. Why, if they know so much, bloody well stand for a political party. Good to talk to you, Pat. Thank you for that. We'll take a break. Sorry, I've got no text on. They've all gone.
Text us 87222. Text the word talk in your message.
I don't know. I have the best, or thought I had. I have the best producer of any programmes on this channel.
Yeah.
I've got a really good technical operator back, who I've had to chastise in the past quite a lot.
Yeah, Mallory.
And the later, he's going on about this flipping. I've got.
They're not on that screen.
In.
We have to
no,
refresh
they're not.
it.
We haven't got that.
Shall I
screen
refresh
up.
it?
TV.
Oh, it's on the TV.
Right, yeah.
We can't see that.
Nigel Farage, 18%, who you think is winning this argument. And Rupert Lowe, he is low, 82%. And 4,600 people have bothered to vote, which is a lot in one of these polls when you're not being bribed with a prize, let me tell you. Right, let's talk to Janice in Essex. Janice, you're on the air.
Oh, hi, my love. I'm so pleased to talk to you. Firstly, Nigel Farage is my MP.
Oh, is he?
Never seen him.
Well, you should go. Why don't you make an appointment and go and see him?
Surgery. Go with surgery.
Go and see him.
I wanted to talk to you about something a little bit more serious, if you don't mind, please.
I can't think of anything more serious, but go on.
Oh, well, I don't know, really, but I want to say two things. Please, bear with me.
Not necessarily, because I've got very little patience.
Was two weeks ago, he was the worst thing that happened on the planet. Now he seems to be the best thing since sliced bread. Because he had a talk with Trump and a talk. But I wanted to say to you, I need your advice, please, James.
Yeah, go on.
I had a phone call from a friend last week. I don't know her that well, but nobody was there for her. She was stuck in the hospital. She's got cancer in the esophagus. She could hardly speak. I couldn't do anything because I'm in Clapton, she's in London. But no one went there to pick her up. Now, I did the best I could. But what I've done all week is try and help her.
Right.
Her boyfriend eventually, no.
What do you want me, what advice do you want from me?
What can I do for her? She's on her last day.
You can be her friend and keep talking to her, right?
Visit her?
No, she can't get there.
No, I can't.
You keep the phone going.
She couldn't speak. The boyfriend is an alcoholic.
Yeah, well, you need to just keep talking to her, and believe you me, I know.
I can't stop talking. She's got cancer esophagus.
Can you type? Can you go on a FaceTime?
Can you FaceTime her?
No.
Well,
they got her back.
Well, how do you get in touch with her? How do you know all these things?
I don't know, because I don't know.
Well, when you know, let me know. Call me back. No, I'm sorry. I can't help that sort of thing. If you come on and tell me you can't talk to somebody because... or they can't talk to you
can't get
because
there.
they have esophageal cancer. Anybody just tuning in thinking I'm being a bit heartless, I have cancer. I have stage 4 kidney cancer, and I'm probably...
I mean, they're terrible cancers, esophagus cancers is a bad one.
I don't know. I don't know. But I can assure you from the way I feel inside. And luckily, I have kidney cancer. I've got it in my lungs. I've got it in my brain. I've got it everywhere. But, I'm still managing at this particular moment.
You're doing very well tonight, I think. Yeah.
Do you think so? Yeah. Let's talk to... And I do feel very sorry for anybody in that situation. But what I can do in that, I don't know.
But the NHS does need sorting out. It's really in a bad state.
The NHS needs completely sorted out. The NHS are looking after me. The doctors and the nurses and my oncologist are doing a brilliant, great job.
Yeah.
And they've kept me going for 5 years now, which is sort of what,
Yeah.
And But you ring me and say, what can I do for somebody? I can't go and see them. They can't talk to me on the phone.
Yeah.
But I know all this about it. It just makes me wonder. Richard in Leeds. Richard.
Hi, guys. This week, Nigel Farage and Rupert Lowe. I'm on Rupert Lowe's side.
Why? Why do you suddenly think Rupert Lowe is after what Nigel has done? Why is everybody turning? Why are you turning on Nigel? Because you've never met either of them, have you?
Judas. No, I am. No. I'm a Reform voter. I voted Reform.
But you never met them.
No,
and you voted Reform because of Nigel.
Let me tell you. So the reason is I've started going off Nigel. It started.
Oh, you two-faced son.
No, but hear me out.
I wouldn't want to go out with you. Would you want to go out with him?
Hear him out.
Hear me out.
Go on.
So it started with Shamima Begum. I totally disagree on that. I get you're on his side, then I totally disagree with you on that. But that's where it started. Then all this with Ukraine and Russia, he's siding with Starmer against Trump. When they kicked Zelensky out, Nigel was siding with Starmer. And it's like, what? I just don't get that.
Sorry, you think Zelensky needs to be kicked out of Ukraine?
I think Zelensky is getting told that this war needs to end now. You're not going to win it. End it now, because we're going to stop funding you. It's a ridiculous war.
But, you know, you can agree. You don't have to agree with everybody about everything. This is it. The interesting thing. Hang on. The interesting thing here is, Richard, that I agree with some things people say that are friends of mine, and I totally disagree. And you should hear me and my wife.
Farage did actually say a few years ago, you know, Russia has a right to say you can't be on the border. So he is changing his tunes a bit, and people are getting confused by that.
In its tune, it's chopping and changing. It's starting to look just like the rest of them.
Well, I disagree, but you're entitled to your position, and I think also you need to know that when you're in Parliament and voted in, there are ways that you have to do it. You can't say, you know, it's
Alex
very difficult.
Talks about that.
Richard, we got to go because the news is next. I'll be back after this probably with you.
Yeah, man.
If you listen.
Get your calls in.
So why not call us 0344 499 1000. There we are on the screen. Very quick, very good. 0344 499 1000.
Back in a sec.
Very good evening. Welcome. Friday night, Unleashed with Ash until 1. And I'm going to stay on for a little bit, take some more calls. If you want to call, 0344 499 1000. Rupert Lowe or Nigel Farage? Who do you rate? Look, it's very, very strange. I have to say it's a bit difficult. I mean, Rupert Lowe I've not met, I can't tell you, but reading his interview in the Mail, I think he sounds a bit of a spoilt, petulant, whatever. And I've known Nigel over 30 years. If it hadn't been for Nigel, there'd be no Reform Party and no Reform.
No Brexit.
in Parliament, no Brexit. He's probably one of the most
And
influential
the hypocrisy of Starmer, he's benefiting because now he's on the world stage. If he was still in the EU, it'd be von der Leyen doing it. So he's benefiting from this Brexit that he tried to undermine.
You see, the thing is, by the way, if you're easily offended, I wouldn't listen or watch anymore.
Just leave them.
But if you want to come on the air and have your say, 0344 499 1000. Give us a call now. Paula in Halifax. Paula, hello.
Oh, good evening, James. How
Paula,
are you doing?
I'm all right. Paula, what do you want to say?
I'm sadly got to tell you that my mum's got a brain tumour.
Well, I'm very, very sad to hear it. I've got one too. But we're talking, at the moment about Nigel. I'm sorry to be a little offhand about this, but I do this podcast.
That is slightly nasty, James. I was ringing for advice.
I know, but what advice can I give? I'm not a doctor.
What advice would you give?
No, what? I'm not saying that you're a doctor. I'm not saying.
So what is it, Paula?
Don't cry. Paula, do not cry. I'm sorry I was a bit offhand. And one of the problems is when you are... It's more difficult for people in your position, I have found, than people in my position. I don't know how long I have left. Probably not till the end of the year.
But what did you want to know, Paula?
But go on, tell me what you wanted to know.
I just wanted to know the tumour that she's got. I wanted to tell you which tumour she's got. She's got meningioma.
But I'm not a doctor. There are a number of doctors.
I know that you're so poorly.
Yeah.
And I just wanted a bit of.
Listen, I do a podcast with my wife, and if do you listen to podcasts?
I will listen to podcasts. Yeah.
Well, if you go on to wherever you get your
There's
podcast,
100 of them, Nod.
There's 100 of them, and it's called Tales of the Whales, and it talks about living with cancer, and my wife being
and
the
living
person.
with someone who has cancer.
Yeah, and I.
See,
I've got to the stage now where I know I haven't got, and I didn't mean to talk about this. I wanted to get really in and mix it up between Nigel Farage, Rupert Lowe, and various other things. And listen, you've waited a long time to try and get on and everything, and I'm sorry I was a bit rude, but
it's okay.
It is, and I know how difficult it is, and I know, you want to know what to do. And from my point of view...
She's in hospital and Jimmy's talking to Halifax doctors.
Yeah.
They've done the brain scan, they've done the CT scan, then they've done the
What is it you need? Yeah, what is it? All this is what happens when you have cancer. What is it? I mean,
because I've had it myself.
Right, well then you know.
I had kidney cancer, didn't I?
Yes, you did, yeah.
So what do you want to know what? That I don't know from one tumour to another. But you need to ask the doctor those questions.
She's in the best place, I would have thought.
No, they're having a meeting from St James and Leeds and Halifax on Wednesday, and then we're going to find out how long she's got left.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, I'm having that same meeting with my doctor on Tuesday.
And they'd never know anyway, because you go on for years and years.
Well, no, you can't. You can't. No, you can't. No,
you can't tell how long it's going to be. Whatever they tell you.
You can get an idea, and I know because of the way I feel.
Yeah.
But
the doctors get it wrong. You might feel it, but the doctors will say this and that.
She collapsed at home. They had to knock the door down.
Yeah.
But I knew she'd not been well, and she'd been hiding it from me because she does everything for me because I'm disabled. And,
yeah. She's got somebody looking after her now?
She's in hospital. She's in Halifax Hospital.
Well, she's in the best place then, isn't she? She shouldn't be on her own if she's in that situation.
Oh, well, they rushed us to... There were ambulance there, there were a blinking fire brigade, there were police there ringing me saying, is it okay if we knock the door down?
No, I spent 3 weeks in hospital recently over Christmas.
I know you've not been well,
James.
And I've been looking out for you.
You've had cancer too. You know what it's like.
Yeah, I know.
You get it. One day you can feel really good. The next day you can feel like absolute shockingly.
Yeah.
But it's very, very difficult to I mean, I know how you feel, and I understand how you feel, and you have to be strong for your mum.
I feel like your wife feels.
She hides it, but yes, it's a very, very difficult situation, and very stressful. You know, there are things that I would love to be doing for her that I want, but I can't, and places I'd like to go and things I'd like to do. But you know, I was first diagnosed with kidney cancer 25 years ago.
I know.
I had my kidney out, and I lived for 20 odd years without it coming back, and then it came back. And listen, I really don't want to talk about this. I mean, I don't mind doing it, but there are so many things that I'd like to be getting into. If you go on, no. I'm sorry for being, you know. My wife says to me, "Are you in work mode now? Because if you're in work mode, I don't want to talk to you."
Yeah, he's in work mode.
Yes,
he's absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, but listen, if you find find our podcast and have a listen called Tales of the Whales. Yeah. And I can feel my voice going now. That's one of the other things that happens. Paula, will you ring me next Friday and let me know how you're going? And I will make a point of making them get you on as soon as you ring in.
And send our best to your mother.
And will you be kind to me?
Well, we can't guarantee. If he's in work mode, we can't guarantee anything.
I'll try.
No,
but we'll try.
I'm going to have a word with Mrs. Wales.
Yeah. I'll try.
I'll have a word, yeah.
Paula, lovely to talk to you. Give my love to Halifax. Thank you very much.
Yeah, man.
Last place I ever did a pantomime was in Halifax.
Yeah.
Paul.
No, you didn't.
Oh, yes, I did.
With Ian Beale as director.
Yeah. Paul in Cheshire. Yeah, Paul.
Yeah, hi guys. Great show.
Let's get back to it. Thank you, Paul.
Yeah, what I want to say is that the last time I phoned up was with David and Benny about the Conservative election, where they're choosing the leader. And I voted Conservative because I think Pree Patel would have made a better leader. You know what I mean? And I really like Nigel Farage, but I really like him because Pree Patel wanted to get Brexit done as well, didn't she?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm.
What about Braverman? She was quite good.
So hang on. Let's not go who will be a good leader of the Conservatives. Nobody cares. This spat between Rupert Lowe and Nigel Farage, totally unnecessary for Reform Party, and I can only assume that the people who are doing it, Ben Habib should know better, Rupert Lowe, and there may be a couple of other people who obviously think they're better. But they are now in danger of ruining us getting a third decent political party that makes a difference.
Imploding. I think it's got to be. I think they've got to. The rise has got to be not as serious because it can't be a slow rise, but it's going to be a good rise. But they've got to just weed some of the weeds out on me.
Okay.
It's hard to do it with parties, isn't it?
Interesting point. Thank you, Paul. Josh is in Cambridge. Josh.
Hello.
Yes.
Hello, my friend. I tell you what, James, it's lovely to see you, and I'm glad you're doing really well, my friend.
Thank you very much. What can we do for you?
Right, so we're talking about Mr. Nigel Farage, correct?
We are.
Right. Mr. Nigel Farage and Reform, I do have a lot to look for because they are standing for British values, old school British values. The only problem I seem to have with Nigel Farage is, and maybe you can agree with me on this, the Ukraine war is terrible, correct?
Yeah.
Very bad, very bad. Keir Starmer has been done over by Mr. Zelensky over money for us to give, correct?
I don't know.
I believe
and nor
so.
do you.
Well, I believe so.
Yeah, well, you can believe whatever you like.
But what's your point? You want to stop the war? You're with Trump on the peace deal?
But you don't know. You can believe whatever you want. We can all believe whatever we want. But unless we're actually in the room where these things are said, that's what I love about people who go on and say, oh, yeah, this definitely. And the amount of two-faced people who've turned on Nigel Farage just this evening, since this all broke, this news broke, I'm amazed at. I wouldn't want them in a party supporting me, that's for sure.
But I like Nigel Farage, but would you having as an opposing factor to Keir Starmer, he's not really come out very strongly in opposing... I mean, he opposes the war, correct? Opposes the money that we're giving them, or not?
No, I don't think he does. He's more with Zelensky, supporting Zelensky for some reason.
No, I think we as a nation are supporting Ukraine because we don't want the flipping Russians getting any closer to us. But this is what has to be said. There has to be some coming together of Russia and Ukraine, and the only way that's going to happen is by Putin and Zelensky being made to sit around a table and stop behaving in the appalling way that they are, because they're both refusing to actually do anything to bring peace about.
But do we honestly also believe that Keir Starmer should be the middleman when he's a very incompetent man to be the person that's leading this?
Well, all those people who voted him in should have known better, shouldn't they?
I'm behind you completely. I am behind you completely.
Maybe there will be another election before. Who knows? If the world ends up in a kind of war situation, which I really hope doesn't happen, then there could be all kinds of problems. Josh, mate, thank you very much indeed. Let's talk again another time. Valerie in Essex. Valerie, you're on the air.
Hi, guys. Hi.
Valerie.
I want to bring the subject back to Ukraine. Read something on X tonight that the 4.6 billion
Sorry, we can't hear you.
Oh, she went off.
Have you gone?
You can't hear me?
Oh, that's better, yeah.
I was just saying that the 4.6 billion to Ukraine is a lie. Apparently it's coming out from taxpayers' money.
We don't know that.
It's all our money that comes out of it.
It's been blocked by Lord Farmer's desk.
Sorry?
Apparently it's been blocked by Lord Farmer's desk.
By Lords? There is no
Lord
Lords.
Farmer's desk?
No, Lord.
Hermer.
Oh, yeah.
Lord Hermer.
Oh, right, okay, yeah.
The Attorney General,
yeah.
Well, for some international laws and regulations. So it seems it could be coming from the taxpayers, and Rachel from
the unfortunate thing is we never know where the money is coming from, Valerie, and suddenly they have no money at the beginning of the Parliament, and
it's all our money, though. It's all our tax money.
22 billion hole and all that, and then
now 2 billion a year to Ukraine.
Yeah.
I mean, we can't afford
it. They want it, don't they?
Listen, Valerie, thank you very much indeed. We have to take a break. I am now going to pass the reins to you.
All right, man.
Because I'm beginning not to be able to speak. And thank everybody. I mean, we had an interesting and unusual programme, it has to be said,
it was,
tonight. And once again, Paula, I'm sending you my love. I should have. I didn't expect a call like that in the middle of deciding whether or not Rupert Lowe or Nigel Farage or anybody else would make a better leader than Reform. But I am amazed, and I'll leave it with you, I am totally amazed how many people suddenly turn... And I know all the slagging off I'll get on social media, but I can't be bothered reading it, to be honest.
No.
I'll let you deal with it.
Yeah. So we'll give us a ring, 03444 99 1000. He's going off again early for an early bath.
Sorry about that, but I see who's over there?
That's Andrew, isn't it?
That's Andrew, isn't it?
Andrew Eborn will be joining me, and you'll be here next week, won't you?
I will. Hopefully I'll be here
Cateris
next week.
Paribus.
Yeah. So shall we take the break? was that?
Yeah, it's there goes James Wales leaving the building. Anyway, at Virtual Ash at the James Whale at talkTV, and what we're going to talk about now is, well, it's what Trump said, isn't it? He said hell to pay. He's issued a last warning to release the hostages being held in Gaza. This is what he said. He said, I'm sending Israel everything it needs to finish the job. Not a single Hamas member will be safe if you don't do as I say. Release all of the hostages now and all of the dead bodies, or it is over for you. And he went on, it could get even a little bit harder than that. So, yeah, give us a ring on that. 03444991000. Ollie London's just got back from Israel, but he actually visited the Bibas family. We know the two babies that were strangled and mutilated, and the mother that were murdered very shortly after October the 7th. Terrible story. But Ollie went to visit the Bibas family, and here's a bit of what happened.
So I'm at the Bibas family. This was where Cherie and Yardan stood when Yardan defended their home against the terrorists, and that very famous video of Cherie being dragged away with her babies clutched in her arms, Kafir and Ariel. Kafir was just 8 months old at the time and Ariel 4, and they were seen dragged away with Cherie looking terrified. Yardan was later seen being dragged on the back of a motorbike through Gaza as civilians beat him, covered him in blood and took selfies, and that was the last time they were seen over 15 months ago, and this was their beloved home. You can see their photos on the wall, and little Kafir with his red hair and his baby brother Ariel, who loved Batman. And you can also see some of their toys.
Yeah, and then they were returned in coffins to celebrating Gaza. Anyway, hi Ollie and Andrew.
Hi, Ash. Isn't that depressing? And I think we get so desensitised when we just talk about statistics until you personify it and see the absolute tragedy, the horrendous casualties on both sides. Yeah. But those were horrendous, and it must have been harrowing for you to be there, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was actually my second time visiting Israel. I did actually go on one of the first trips following the October 7th attack in December 2023. But this was my first time visiting Kibbutz Ner Oz, which was the home of the Bibas family, actually standing outside the house. And I saw the tree from that video where Cherie and he's clutching her babies, they're being kidnapped, stood next to that. And what Hamas and also the Palestinian, it wasn't just Hamas, it was Palestinian civilians. In this particular village, it was...
They came in after and did a lot of the murdering and raping themselves, just citizens.
In the village Ner Oz, where the Bibas family lived, it was about 150 heavily armed Nukba terrorists from the Hamas group, and then there's about 800 civilians that also came to pillage and burn. And
a lot of them had worked at the kibbutz because people were allowed to work, and so they sort of looked how it was planned, gave them plans, and
many of these people in the southern communities that were slaughtered, kidnapped and affected by this attack, many of them were actually peace activists. They had been working towards trying to have a two-state solution, have peace. And in the same village in Oz, I also visited the home of Oded Lipschitz, who was the 83-year-old grandfather of 10. I saw his piano completely burned and charred. His home was burned to the ground.
He used to pick up Gazans to take them to hospital in Israel, didn't he?
He used to volunteer.
This is how he gets repaid, sent back in a coffin with a celebrating
How did that trip come about?
I've been doing a lot of things with Israel since the October 7th attack. I've been very outspoken and was with the Israeli government and, trying to... Because I think it's important to go there and see it with your own eyes, because I've been reporting on it. I've been meeting a lot of hostages around the world, hostage families around the world. But for me, I think it's so important to be there and witness it and hear the stories firsthand, because I was meeting people that had survived that day, and their stories hadn't been on the news.
Well, did you meet Yardan Bibas? Who?
No, I didn't. He was released recently.
And the Hamas terrorists said, when he said, "I can't wait to see my wife and kids," they laughed mockingly because they knew they'd been murdered.
I mean, what they did firstly, Yarden Bibas was emancipated when he was released. He was starved. Same with several of the hostages we saw.
They look like concentration camp after Belsen.
And we all say never again, and you look, as you say, at that sort of time, and you look at that sort of stuff. But the reaction of people when you were there in the community, obviously it devastates the whole community. Did you talk to them as well, and what were they saying?
Yeah, I mean, I went to the Syrian border, Lebanese border, Gaza border, met with a variety of people, from government officials to people living in these communities, from the farmers, and pretty much everyone in Israel was affected by that, whether they lost someone directly or they know someone. Isn't it? It's a small country, and everybody is feeling that anguish and pain.
Everyone will know someone, pretty much, or know someone who knows someone who was kidnapped or murdered.
And it's a deep trauma. Israelis are incredibly resilient people. They're very strong, and they are. They've got so much courage, but for the fact what they're going through, and they don't have the support of everyone around the world, and people have different views, but at the end of the day, there are hostages being held, and it's not just Hamas holding them. Multiple hostages that have been released have actually said they were held in civilian homes, in UNRWA worker homes. So and
you can't live in Gaza, and if you're not pro-Hamas, you're in big trouble.
Well, look at what they did when they released the hostages recently with those parades. When they paraded Kufr Bibas, who was 8 months old, when they paraded
his coffin,
his brother Ariel, and then they put a Gaza woman's body in the body of Cherie Bibas, parading them on stage, and they had music, they were cheering, they were clapping,
with all their children
taking
there.
selfies, all the children holding guns and Hamas headbands, and that is the society there. That is it.
What is the future then? Because how is this going to be? How will they ever be able to live side by side, or has Trump got the right idea?
Well, President Trump's proposal, is a bold proposal, but at the end of the day, this conflict has been going on for decades and decades and decades. And like I said, many of the people in southern Israel, many people in Israel were very sympathetic to the Palestinian cause pre-October 7th, and people were, trying to coexist. Israelis are a very peaceful people. They do not attack people. They only are defending themselves right now and trying to take out the people that attack them. But, that sentiment has obviously changed, because
because Hamas pretended to coexist for 5 years while they were doing this. So even if you have peace now, you can never trust them, because you go, well, they're just planning, and they've already said they're going to do it. So how can you have peace even if they say they're going to be peace? They're lying. They're going to plan another.
You can't. And why isn't Qatar, which has funded Hamas and supported them, why have they not offered to take in Palestinians? So not just that, have obviously Egypt and Jordan. Jordan has about a 70% Palestinian population. Queen Rania of Jordan is Palestinian herself. Why have they not stepped up if they're so concerned? Because it's all rhetoric. It's this is terrible what's going on. They've offered nothing. Egypt has 7 walls.
Exactly. I mean, they say Israel has occupied Gaza even though they're not in, and they went out in 2005 by blocking the borders. Well, hold on. What about Egypt? There's a massive border.
7 walls. I've seen it with my own eyes.
And they're supplying tunnels. There's about 90 tunnels that were supplying Gaza with all these weapons. So Egypt doesn't seem to get. I mean, it's a totally unfair world with the UN and
all the blame
ICC.
being put on Israel when Israel is actually trying to get their people back, because at the end of the day, in Nazi Germany, there were actually Germans that actually tried to help Jewish people.
Yes.
There's not a single Palestinian, and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu did last year offer a $5 million reward and safe passage out of Gaza for any civilian that gave information that would lead to the rescue of a hostage. Not a single one. So there's no one there that's actually tried to help. Right. And there have been, of course, IDF troops present throughout the war. And, there's been nobody that says, oh, there's a hostage here, because all of these hostages have been held in Rafah, a heavily densely populated civilian area, and it's like nobody has.
And if there was actually a proper election, which they'll never allow, Hamas would win. I mean, it's like 90%.
They won the
approval.
last election, which was over 20 years ago, and that was the final election. But yes, and that's the problem is, once Hamas is dismantled, the problem is how then do you move forward, because you have this mentality.
And you've got the West Bank. You've got Hamas in the West Bank now. Yeah, they're also planning things.
There's a lot of problems in Judea and Samaria and West Bank, because in Jenin there's a lot of IDF operations at the moment, because there are a lot of terror cells there, and the Palestinian Authority, headed by Mahmoud Abbas, they actually have this pay-for-slay program. So basically, any Palestinian that slaughters an Israeli, the longer they serve in prison, they get a salary.
Well, you get it for life if you are martyr. I mean, his hero.
And that's aid money, hundreds of millions of dollars in aid money.
And we've got to keep shining the spotlight on this. I mean, you've got a rhetoric on both sides, and you hear conflicting reports about how Netanyahu's viewed at the moment. What's the view on the ground about Netanyahu?
You know, the main focus in Israel is people are just so focused on the hostages. They need this to end, but at the same time, Israelis need to be safe because this has happened now. It could happen again. And of course, Israel, Netanyahu have severely decimated the Hezbollah threat from the north because that was a big threat.
He's prosecuted the war very competently. He messed up at obviously October 7th with a massive cock-up.
That should have never happened.
But I mean, you know, if you look back at Winston Churchill, he had a massive cock-up at the Dardanelles and Gallipoli, and he turned it round and brought it back. He was a war hero and a writer, a bit like Netanyahu. And I think the Israeli population, while the war is going on, are very united, apart from there's a lot of left-wing press.
Well, I think this is the thing. You hear conflicting reports, and as you say, there are so many questions about October the 7th, why it wasn't predicted.
But they came out and said, we apologise for that massive failure a couple of weeks ago.
And it's so important, isn't it? I mean, we always say the first casualty of war is the truth. And the other thing is the rhetoric about Trump. And the reaction, which I imagine is predictable, the reaction when he says he wants it to be Gaza Riviera. What were people saying on the ground about that?
You know, that's obviously he posted that AI video and stuff, and
I saw that with the golden statue.
He didn't make that. He was reposting.
He was reposting it. He posted it on True Social. But, you know, I think there's no way that, unfortunately, they can't live there next to them because look at what's happened 70 years. There's rockets being fired. They've kept hostages. I met the other day with families that have had... I met a sister, her brother has been held for 10 years. They killed him, but they've held his body for 10 years. And you can't coexist with that. Hostage released recently, who was Ethiopian Israeli, he had been there for 10 years. He had mental health struggles, and he was, again, starved and tortured. And how can you live side by side with that?
They just wandered into Gaza and got kidnapped. And the thing is with Hamas, when they came in, and recently there was a terrorist attack in Haifa, they don't care if they're Muslims. Israeli, they kill them as well.
There was a lot of Muslims, a lot of Bedouins, people killed that day.
I saw a Thai guy getting decapitated.
There was over 40 Thai people were killed, you know, multiple Nepalese students. And, you know, people seem to forget that. People seem to forget there was, of course, a British woman, Emily Damari. There was a little Irish girl, Emily Hand, who was 9. You know, this is something that's affected many people around the world. And I believe there's the people still left in Gaza, 59 hostages. I believe there are 16 different nationalities there. And there's one American, Edan Alexander, who is still being held there. So it's something that affects the world. And, you know, Hamas were indiscriminate. They just wanted to kill. That's
everything. It's like they had a bloodlust and didn't really care.
That's all they do. And, you know, they killed, obviously, British people, Americans, and, you know...
Many nationalities.
Awful. But is there a sense of hope that things are going to get resolved now that you've got Trump in the White House? He's getting this big rhetoric, which he says, you know, last warning to Hamas. Is there a sense of hope it's going to end?
Yeah, you know, Israelis are very grateful for President Trump because if you compare his, you know, he's only been president for a couple of months. If you compare that to the Biden administration, which was constantly flip-flopping on the issue, you know, when Iran...
Well, giving succor to Hamas.
Yeah, when Iran attacked Israel with ballistic missiles, Biden said, don't. You know, so it's you've got a completely different rhetoric now. There will be hell to pay, you know. Anyone holding hostages will be, you know, eliminated, and Israelis are very appreciative of that. The Trump special envoy for the Middle East, Steve Witkoff, and the deputy special envoy Morgan Ortagus, they've been to the region working on getting the hostages because phase 1 of the ceasefire deal is finished. You know, they're trying to figure it out now because there are 59 people still there. But it's, you know, people are appreciative of President Trump, and a lot of people in Israeli society appreciate him. You know, they have similar values. He's patriotic. He's conservative. He doesn't want war. And you know, the people there, nobody wants war. You know, it affects everybody because all these young people, they have mums and dads. They're going into Gaza. The soldiers are being killed. You know. Right,
we've got to take a little break. If you want to join us, we've got Ollie London, who's just come back from Israel, and Andrew Eborn. 03444 99 1000 if you want to ask a question, and we'll be back in a couple of minutes. talk. James Wales gone home again, but he'll be back next week from 10 03444 991,000. We're talking about Gaza because Ollie London's here, just come back from Israel. Got Andrew Eborn with us. So you're out and about in Israel. What's the view in Israel about swapping the hostages, and even more so about, you know, they swapped 4 bodies for 600 living prisoners, and these people can come back and do it again knowing that they'll just need to kidnap more people to get out. What's the view in Israel about swapping dead bodies for...
Well, it's a horrible feeling because, you know, when some media outlets try to say about the, Palestinian, they call them Palestinian hostages, they are not. These are people in prison, many for terrorism convictions, many serving life sentences. And, you know, for an Israeli that has lost a loved one because of these people and they're being released, you know, I do know one person that his brother was killed by a terrorist, the terrorist was just released. That is gut-wrenching.
And it wasn't even that long ago, that story, was it?
No,
it's gut-wrenching. And Sinwar was cured of cancer in Israeli prison, then went and actually was the planner, the head planner, the mastermind of October the 7th.
And the other thing is going to carry on for generations, isn't it? Because that resentment and anger and hurt doesn't just go away.
Well, there's no ending, is there? I mean, they've tried to get deals, and every time they've got to the end, they've refused it, the Palestinians. It's almost like, well, it is like they don't want peace.
So what I should ask both of you then, what is the solution? Because people talk about it. Trump, as I say, has the rhetoric of Gaza Riviera, which has been offensive to a number of people on both sides. What do you think the solution should be?
Well, I think the solution should be for neighbouring countries that claim to care about Palestinian cause. You know, you have all of the Middle Eastern countries, not a single one has offered to take them in. Why does Egypt have 7 layers to its wall? There's a reason for that. You know, in the past...
Gaza used to be part of Egypt.
Yes, exactly, in the Sinai. You know, the region knows what Palestinians do when they come to their countries. Unfortunately, it's obviously not all of them, but it's within their culture is to hate. And you see what's going on in Judea and Samaria, the West Bank at the moment. There's constant stabbings. There was the attempted bus bombings the other day, Palestinian
Well, some say there was a lot more than 3. You know, some say there was 15, and they were about to try and launch another October the 7th from Judea and Samaria. Have you heard anything about that?
Well, that's causing a lot of problems. Judea and Samaria at the moment, specifically in Jenin and Jabalia. That is where there's a lot of IDF operations because a lot of terrorist cells there.
And some people think it's just the Palestinian Authority, Mahmoud Abbas and Fatah, but Hamas they'd win an election there as well, and there's a lot of Hamas operatives there. They killed one of the leaders there the other day, about a few days ago.
They have multiple terror groups. There's Palestinian Islamic Jihad, so there's there's a lot operating in the West Bank. And again, when the Palestinian Authority rewards people, any Palestinian that kills or slaughters an Israeli gets a salary, a monthly salary, depending on how long their prison sentence is.
Mahmoud Abbas, his hero is the Grand Mufti, and he did a deal with Hitler. He said, don't worry, I'll do the final solution in the Middle East. And that is the hero of Mahmoud Abbas. So they're all terrorists.
But I go back to the point, because people want a solution. I think there are people on both sides, and I understand on the terrorist side they probably don't, but the reality is there are people on both sides who want a solution. What is that solution?
Again, I think the solution should be, I don't think Gaza can exist as it is, because unfortunately we've seen these parades of dead bodies and hostages, and thousands of civilians lined up cheering and supporting it.
They should be absorbed into the other Arab countries.
You know, why doesn't every Arab country offer to take in 100,000 each? And, you know, instead of putting all the pressure on Jordan, even though they have a large Palestinian population, why don't all the neighbouring regional countries offer to take in 100,000 each? You know, there's about 2 million people in Gaza. Or why not, you know, find a piece of land in the Sinai or something, and, you know, Egypt can build a new settlement and stuff, and of course they'll get the investment.
But don't they want to keep it as a thorn in the side of it? Ultimately, it's not just about them, we don't want these crazy people from Gaza moving. They want to keep it a thorn in Israel's side.
So what's your solution, Ash? How would you solve it?
Well, either build a much bigger, better wall, or I think that is the only solution. You know, you've got to separate people when
two-state solution, is that it?
Well, is that viable? That's the thing. I think really it has worked in the past. It's just it's seen so unpolitically correct now. It's called ethnic cleansing and all that, but it has worked in the past, hasn't it? I mean, India and stuff. It does work in the long term, and it's definitely not going to work in the long term. Just keep going around in circles. People get murdered.
Yeah, and I think that's why it's so important to absolutely shine a spotlight on the horror because we always say, and it sounds so trite, doesn't it, saying make sure it never happens again. It does keep recurring. But we now need to work on, OK, what is the solution? And you'll never forget, because of the horrendous things that you've spoken about, but looking at what that solution might be in the practical side. And I think the rhetoric on this one, whilst Trump has got a great rhetoric out to no stone unturned, I'm going to basically hell to pay, all this sort of glorious stuff, you've got to turn around. Equally offensive, though, is things like the Gaza Riviera is offensive. And I think you've got to turn
just Trump trying it on and pushing it to see where it goes?
Of course it is, but I think it's being aware of that. If we're trying to find a solution, and I think that's where the energy now needs to be.
It's got to be a real practical solution.
It's got to be practical without, and this is the trouble with trying to find a solution, because you've got to try and appease both sides. That's difficult because both sides want to make sure they've got a victory. And one of those is obviously is abhorrent if you pursue both of those sides.
One side won't actually accept it, though.
And that's the problem. So you've got to sit down and say, here's a solution. I think this is the problem. Well, both sides refuse to do that.
You can't sit down. One side will definitely not ever agree.
And
they're never going to agree to leave Gaza.
So why should Israel give concessions to a group that's still holding?
And I understand. And there's extreme view. And I go back to the point I said. If those were my children, you'd never forgive, and you'd want to have that rhetoric. Of course, there has to be
retaliation.
But Israel's never allowed to carry out proper war. I mean, look what we did with Germany. We totally decimated it. There was no more Germany there. Israel has its arms time behind his back. That's why it goes on for 80 years. They can't actually finish a war.
And it's interesting. I was looking at the different wars throughout history, and it's always the losers who then become the economic forces in the future. So Germany afterwards, exactly. And I was looking at this. So Germany, for example, got paid by America to rebuild it, and they suddenly became this wonderful.
And we lost
force.
Everything we built up in Victorian times and the empire.
Exactly. And also, what happened? They traded it for IP. So I looked at what they got for it. So everything's transactional. And that's the current thing. So Trump, when he's saying in the same way about Ukraine and so on and so forth, and the mineral rights, it's all transactional. I'm going to help you, but it's going to cost you.
But then it would give America commercial interests that Russia wouldn't want to start on.
Well, that's the thing.
So it's actually security is built into that.
But again, it's looking at that. So there's the practical. That's what Trump is saying. The practical solution is that in Ukraine. The practical solution in Gaza is what? Because you've got on one side saying that he wants to take all the Palestinians out, but some can stay and so on and so forth, turning it into this glorious thing which he showed on AI is just inflammatory, and it's not going to get people working on that sort of basis, is it? And I think that's the problem.
What do the kidnapped families that you've met say the solution is, and then what do just general Israelis that you met in the streets say?
I've met many families. I've met former hostages, and they want the rest of the hostages released.
Of course.
And there are 59 hostages.
But what do they see as the solution? Do they even think about that because they've got other things on their mind?
Well, again, Israelis are very peaceful people, and again, many of them held views about coexistence before. Many of them tried to coexist. Many of them hired.
But do they believe that's the future now?
No, you can't have a future.
That's changed, hasn't it? Then
from October, you can't have a future, and the fact that the hostages have been there for 17 months,
it's awful.
It's
or some 10 years because
and also for the Palestine activists, if they care about Palestinians, why not try and work towards a solution like building a city?
But they don't, do they? I mean, no, they use them as human shields. They wouldn't let them in the shelters, the tunnels that could have protected them.
Exactly, and as Andrew said, it's always important to look at both sides in any kind of war or conflict, and important to understand, of course,
but there is good and evil. I mean, you see in the Second World War, you didn't look at both sides with the Nazis and us. There was good and there was evil.
And I think it's absolutely right to call out horrors, and we'll continue shining a spotlight on that. And that's absolutely right. But there are also casualties on both sides.
Like
and
any
I think
war.
What we need to look at is that solution. It's going back to Ash's point as well, though. So what do people on the ground think the solution should be? The reason you're hearing conflicting reports about Netanyahu, for example, is the families were so desperate to get their loved ones back to the extent they can. And they were worried, this is what I heard, they were worried about Netanyahu could upset that. Is that a fair summary?
Yes, there are. Israel, it's a very good democracy. You have, obviously, people on the left, people on the right, and, of course, people on the left, that is their opinion that they're trying to blame or pinpoint it on Netanyahu for the hostages not being released, but it's not, because there's been dozens and dozens of agreements with Hamas mediated via Qatar and Egypt, and just every time Hamas violates a ceasefire. I mean, for instance, look at the ceasefire. The deal was to release specific hostages, for instance, Shari Bibas. Instead, to as a psychological warfare tactic, they put a different body in the body.
That was horrible.
And lock the coffins.
And lock the coffins with different keys. So that happens every time. So, Israel really does have its hands tied because they want all the hostages released, and that is their number one priority right now. But then every time Hamas is violating that, and there was a rocket shot the other day, and you can't have a normal agreement with these people. You just can't. No. So it is a tough situation for Israel. Of course, the Israelis have their hands tied because whatever they do, they get the blame. And it's a tough...
I mean, I think in the media, if anything, it's the other way round. We'd sort of turn around on that sort of basis. You had those... What are your views on the BBC documentary?
I mean, that was awful.
And now, we talked about this last week, and you had this sort of fake one. We had that extraordinary interview which went viral because this is the chap who came on was defending, saying, show it anyway.
Even the BBC weren't defending it anymore.
But this is the point. They admitted it didn't follow the editorial standard that they need to do. And whilst documentaries need to be balanced and so on and so forth, so you can... But examine those. They themselves turned around and said it. And Channel 4 a similar sort of thing because they were using
the same kid.
Yeah. Exactly. So you've got to turn around on that basis and say, well, hang about, where's the editorial input from broadcasters?
But even the Director General said this week, he said, we might actually put it again out in the future, which is ridiculous. They lied on the subtitle saying, it didn't say Jew, said Israeli. I mean, they're so biased.
Tim Davey, he was basically saying, no, he's lost trust in it because they didn't follow that process.
Well,
and I
quite
think,
right to
it was a £400,000 documentary as well, so Kemi Badenoch was calling it out. What if this
criminal,
money went
the counter-terrorist squad are investigating it.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, in Gaza, everything goes through Hamas. So even with the humanitarian aid, I was actually at the Kerem Shalom crossing where the aid was going through, and 600 to 900 trucks a day, on average, and that's it's a lot of aid going in. But Hamas makes about 2.5 million euros every day from looting, from stealing the oil, the gas.
Take the aid and sell it to their own
Where did
citizens.
you get the figure from?
So I was actually at the border, but the figures from Kogat, which basically is the Israeli government organisation that facilitates the aid, and the week I was there, that was
all right. Well, look, we've got to go.
Stopped.
We've got to finish this slowly, but thanks for joining us. What are you doing next, anyway?
So I've been working on fitness actually. So I'm doing a lot of fitness, and it was 3 months since I had my surgery at SLC Clinic.
You haven't had surgery, have you?
I don't believe it.
I lost 10 kilograms. So,
anyway, look, thanks for coming in. Come again soon.
Thank you very much.
We'll be back after this.
Nice to see you as always. Thank you, Andrew.
Yeah, it's Talk. James Wales left the building. We'll be back next week at 10. It's me and Andrew Eborn. 03444991000 if you want to talk about anything about reform, about what's going on with Rupert and Nigel, and about Israel and Hamas and what's going on there. But in the meantime, we're going to talk to Kenneth O'Keefe, who's been on before. He's a former US Marine and Gulf War veteran, and you've got a lot to say about what's going on in Israel, between Israel and Gaza. What's your view on the future of the situation?
Well, I think it would be worth noting that there was a claim, if you might recall, that was repeated over and over by the media about 40 beheaded babies. I think you might recall that. In fact, I think you might have
I think it was some German press person reported it incorrectly, yeah.
One German person reported,
I can't remember, but it was debunked, yeah. But there were babies slaughtered on that day, and we obviously know what happened to the Bebas boys. They were.
So your position is that the 40 beheaded babies claim and the multiple rapes claim.
No,
that
the multiple rapes definitely
media
happened. I mean, it's just maybe there wasn't 40 babies beheaded, but there were kids beheaded, murdered, and many women raped. I mean. What's your point?
I have read.
Your point is that one of the things were wrong, so it all doesn't matter.
If the journalistic standards have changed to the point that the claim of beheaded babies, which has now been thoroughly disproven and made to be what it was, a false
What about the other stuff that hasn't been debunked and been proven
would that
to be
relevant?
true?
Let's just say, for instance,
it's not relevant anymore because they carried out just as bad atrocities.
The Israelis of beheading 40 babies.
Well, they're not, are they?
Would it have been considered wrong for them to?
What about strangling a baby? What about strangling a baby? Did that happen?
40 beheaded babies?
No, forget that. We all agree that didn't happen. The strangling a baby definitely did happen, and the strangling a 4-year-old happened. And what do you think about that?
The bar changed, and are you?
Is that all right? Because it's not 40 babies.
That one German said that there were 40 beheaded babies. Is that?
It's been debunked. Why you keep going on about? Let's go on to the Bebas family, which we know did happen. You seem to be avoiding that one, don't you? Why are you avoiding the Bebas?
Journalistic standard literally to the level of 1984.
Well, that's not our journalist standard.
Where we believe whoever the authorized truth teller is.
We're in agreement that didn't happen, but you keep going back to that because you want to avoid the other thing. What about the Bebas kids?
I don't have to say. I know that, but at the end of the day, I thought you had the mental capacity to acknowledge a false claim.
I already did. Yeah, exactly. Just park that there. We're in agreement. You're wasting the time. Let's talk about these the other thing, the atrocities that definitely did happen.
To point out a claim such as 40 beheaded babies.
That's an old news. That was debunked ages ago. Why are you keeping going on about that when we've got real atrocities that happened?
Oh, real atrocities have occurred since. I'm sorry. Where were the real atrocities?
The Bebas babies. Let's start with them. A baby strangled to death, 10 months old, and a 4-year-old strangled to death.
Baby. How many babies were strangled to death? Sorry. And where's the forensics evidence?
Does it matter?
Has it been
we're talking about those two. We're talking about those two. I mean, there were other babies and children murdered, but let's just
babies.
Let's get the zone in on those two.
Journalist who told you that one too.
Well, no, this has been proven. They did the autopsy reports. I mean, they are dead. Anyway, we're not going to agree on that. You know, you keep going on about this other thing that we've all agreed is debunked. What do you think about your president, Donald Trump?
That was bad reporting. You'll at least say that.
It was bad reporting by not us. Yeah, I agree, but I've been saying that from the beginning. You keep going on about it. Forget about that. Let's talk about Donald Trump now. What do you think about his plan? It seems to have shaken it up a bit.
Oh, well, yeah, Donnie Trump is good for that, but he's just another in a long list of traitors. He's went and paid his homage to the Jewish state, and the policies of America remain, sending $30 million a day for the wealthiest state over there in the Middle East. So, I'm happy for the U.S. taxpayers, the homeless people, the jobless people, the economy going down. And
they paid Hamas $2 billion since October the 7th as well.
Sure the Jewish state has its money,
And Hamas got $2 billion as well.
As far as Trump, he's doing his job. He's a stooge for the Jewish state.
Is he? Well, what's the future then? What do you think the future is for peace out there?
Oh, well, there is a solution. Yes, there is a solution.
Tell us what your idea of a solution is.
It would be for international law to be applied. Also, for those people who falsely report what's called war propaganda. I think you might know something about Nuremberg and all the crimes of the quote-unquote Nazis, right? You know a thing or two there.
Yeah.
So There was a little state set up there in the Middle East in 1948, and it apportioned the majority of land to a minority of recently immigrated people, who, by the way, there's no DNA testing. Did you notice that one? I don't know.
Well, no, there is
German
DNA. It can actually be shown even in European Jews that there is a link to that nation. But over 50% of Israel is made up of people who were kicked out of the Arab lands, where there really is apartheid.
They were kicked out of the Arab lands?
Of Iran, of all of them, of Jordan,
Europe,
of Egypt, of Lebanon.
Oh, it was the Arabs, was it?
Yes.
I don't know. As far as I recall, do you know Bella Hadid? Do you know the model, the supermodel? You ever hear of her?
I think I've heard of her. I've heard a bit about her. But there was 800,000 kicked out, and now over 50% of Israel is made up.
What did you hear, just so I know we're on the same page?
I don't know. You're talking about a model. I don't know really what you're on about.
But you don't know.
Not really. It's a model. You want to talk about what a model
says? Let me just help you out. Actually, the Jews came from Europe and boats, and really were just on such a really healthy dose of victimhood that the Palestinians that I know, I've lived there, both in the West Bank and Gaza, they are the best of people. In fact, they make us Western so-called civilized citizens look like the barbarians that you look like, mate. You're a barbarian.
Don't you think the Gazans look like barbarians when they were all celebrating those babies in coffins? Who was the barbarians then? When the whole of Gaza were out cheering, having a rave with these bodies of these babies.
I'm sorry, I'm just recovering from the memo I didn't get about the German guy who said once that.
Why you keep going on about that? Is it because you got no answers for what I'm saying and you're a bit embarrassed because you can't talk about what I just asked you?
I would have thought you'd know me by now. I ain't embarrassed with you, mate.
Well, why aren't you answering the question then about the Palestinians all celebrating with the Bebas babies in coffins?
Would be required for that one. Yeah, the solution would be to instigate international law and the war criminal charges that were brought against Netanyahu and his gallant buddy, who called the Palestinians human animals, need to be arrested, and then the evidence needs to be put to the fore. And if the evidence is there of the war crimes that have been have resulted in the issuance of bench warrants for the war criminals, Gallant.
There's been no war crimes. There's been no war crimes convictions.
In the course of applying
there hasn't been any. The only accusations have come from the ICJ, which has all been debunked. It was South Africa being paid by Iran. We've seen the war crimes with our own eyes on October the 7th and further, like the Bebas babies. We've seen the war crimes of the people coming out looking like they've just come out of Belsen. I mean, what's your you've got an axe to grind? What have you got against Israel? Is it because they're Jews?
I remember beautiful.
Are you anti-Semitic? So whatever happens, you're just going to be on their side. Are you an anti-Semite? Do you hate Jews?
No, I love the Palestinians.
You come across that way.
Semitic.
You come across that way.
Did you ask me a question? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I said, are you anti-Semitic?
Right. Am I going to be able to get 3 words out before you?
You've just got about 7 out. Just keep going. Answer the question.
Well, I did manage that one. Yes. No, how could I be anti-Semitic? The Palestinians are Semitic, whereas the Israelis
are you anti-Jewish?
Don't allow. They've outlawed.
Let me make it more, you know. You're flanneling around now, aren't you?
The Israelis outlawed DNA testing, which would prove their Semitic roots, but they're not Semitic. The Palestinians are Semitic.
Well, how do you know if you haven't seen the DNA?
Who's the arbiter of truth tell you that?
How do you know if you haven't seen their DNA? How do you know if they have a link to? I mean, you've avoided the question of when I asked you, do you hate Jews? You seem to be avoiding that and smiling a bit. So
you didn't
just
say
answer
Jews.
that.
You said,
well, no, but now I've done it because you said, "Oh, Semites are out." So I've made it more specific for you. Do you hate Jews?
You asked me if I was anti-Semite, and I said no. I love the Palestinians.
And so I've tightened the question. Are you anti-Jewish? Do you hate Jews?
Well, do you recognise that the Palestinians are Semitic?
You're avoiding that question. That's interesting. Andrew, have you got any questions?
Yeah, I was just looking. Ken, good evening. Thank you very much for joining us. You've got a cartoon on your post saying, "What is the secret to everlasting happiness?" It says to not argue with fools, but I don't agree with you. Says the response. Yes, you're right.
Wow, that was brilliant.
So I saw your comment on that. Interesting point, and I've been trying to focus on this because the only way you're going to ever get some sort of resolution is trying to work out how you get lasting peace. What is going to be the solution for lasting peace in Gaza?
The application of law. I'm a guy, I served in the Marines, right? I've been in war. I have a feeling neither one of you ever been in a war. But
I think it might have affected you, hasn't it?
As a man who, now there we go again, your buddy. Wow, he's still playing that same obnoxious twat.
I
like the little English expressions you've learned.
If you can answer that question, Ken, I'll give you the courtesy of at least sort of giving you the opportunity to answer that. What is the secret to lasting peace in Gaza?
Well, lasting peace in the world is the same as lasting peace in Palestine, and that would be the application of law so that we could effect lawful, peaceful remedy. Everything would be evidence-based, so if a claim is made, you'd need to provide the evidence to show claim. And if you made false accusations, that would also be something that could be considered very injurious to the court. And it's actually criminal. It's called perjury when you lie on record. See, all of the journalists that repeated the 40 beheaded babies lied.
That's not perjury. That has to be in a court.
And by the way, the rapes also, even the Jewish media that you love so much.
When have I said that? I love the Jewish media. You see, you're coming out with your anti-Semitic stuff. You're just slipping into your brain.
Beheadings.
Yeah.
You didn't.
Well, so you don't think there were any rapes or beheadings? Do you think Hamas is a terrorist organisation?
Oh, we're back to that old.
Well, you may as well answer it. I mean, you're not going to answer it. You're not answering anything. You're just going on about old stuff.
Well, I think it's easy because in the UK, Ken, sorry, in the UK, Ken, just 10 seconds. In the UK, it's a prescribed terrorist organisation. You talk about the rule of law.
And the USA.
And the rule of law says it's an offence if you support a terrorist organisation. So do you condemn Hamas?
Oh my God! You guys are still repeating.
Oh no,
so that's a no, isn't it? Because you'd say yes if you were.
No, I don't. No, I don't. In fact, I say love and respect.
So you support them, aren't you? Not breaking the law? Are you in the UK? Are you in the UK or America? Because I think you're breaking the law supporting Hamas.
Who treat and act in accord with their belief that the Palestinians...
Anyway, I'm sorry, we've got to go. It's been great having you on. That's Kenneth O'Keefe, former US Marine and Gulf War veteran. We'll be back after the news. Me and Andrew, and your calls, give us a ring. Well, he's so unleashed, he's gone home, but he'll be back at 10. So it's me and Andrew Eborn, and your calls and the press preview tomorrow's paper. Well, today's papers today, 03444991000. So we're going to go through the papers and the Soaraway Sun. We start with that. Piers health scare at 30,000 feet, formerly of this parish. I think he might still work here. England football legend Stuart Pearce suffered a medical emergency on a plane at 30,000 feet. Crew hooked up the Three Lions hero and talk sport pundit 62 to a monitor as his partner and passengers looked on. The Virgin Atlantic flight from Las Vegas to Heathrow was diverted to Canada, where Pearce is said to be recovering in hospital, which is good news. So I hope you're all right. They used to call him Psycho, the fans.
Is that right?
Yeah, an amazing player.
But all credit to the crew for sorting that out. You do wonder in these situations, though, about all the other passengers who are hoping to get to wherever it is. And they never quite finish the end of the story, do they? The other passengers on the plane would be delighted that he got the medical attention he deserved, but they wanted to get to their journey as well.
Yeah, I know. I had a friend whose mother actually passed away in a plane, and they just left her there in the seat, and then people complained, so they put her in the bit where they cook the food on the floor. Yeah, that's like from Australia. Unbelievable, isn't it?
It's like cruise ships.
So if you do die on the plane, they don't land the plane.
I would recommend that people don't die
Lots of people die on planes because of deep vein thrombosis.
That's the problem, isn't it? No, you should exercise.
So always do your exercises and wear tights. I mean, I know you always wear tights.
Always
anyway.
wear tights.
But, and Cheltenham 25, a free 12-page, favourite with previews and tips. Why Christina and Ben split. That's I sat at a table with them.
Did you? Is that why they split?
I think that's probably why
I
she
think that's
met
the
me.
reason. That was the catalyst. I could clearly upgrade.
Yeah, exactly.
Good.
But Ben Conan, an interesting guy. He was telling me he played rugby. He told me, I'm not even any good at it. And then he said he was deaf. He said, I'm totally deaf. I can't hear, so it affects me. I'm probably a better foot. We're a very interesting guy, that Ben Conan. And I think his uncle was in the 66. George Cohen was in the 66 World Cup.
There you go. See.
The Daily Mail.
Yes.
2 free Cineworld tickets with 20,000 to give away.
Wow.
So there you go. Astonishing £250,000 luxury travel bill of the common speaker paid for by you. He's been going first class everywhere, but not to places like Antwerp or Grimsby. He's going to LA and the Caribbean. It's a bit of a coincidence. These are all amazing hotspots.
I love it. They've missed the better headline, though. The better headline would have been Just Stop Hoyle. I thank you. And you would have done that.
By the way, Just Stop Oil, they had their sentence. Some of them had their sentences.
They did, but it's horrendous. But not the ones who threw the soup over the Van Goghs.
About 10 of them didn't get. They got dismissed out the appeal immediately. But 3 or 4 of them got. They're still in prison, but they got let off. The other headline: how many more Putin spies in the UK?
It is a worry, isn't it?
A massive bust. Did you see the raid?
I saw the raid.
And they found them, and they say they were after some Russian dissident that they were because a lot of Russians get murdered here by Putin. We know about the obvious ones. You know, the guy. The polonium and the guy, there's Boris Berezovsky found hanging in his own. But there was 5 of these oligarchs in London who used to meet for breakfast every week. They all ended up falling under tubes, off buildings, or just dropping dead of heart attacks. So they're over here, and so are the Iranians. There's a lot of people over here, but it's good to see the police went in and raided this place.
The thing is, and at this point in the article as well, they say there are far more. And that's what's going to happen. It's going to drip feed. A friend of mine used to own Pescatori, which is, you might remember, this is where the poisoning happened with the Russian sort of side on that sort of thing. So wonderful guy called Luigi Lavarini. But yes, there's going to be more of these stories coming out. What's extraordinary is that they're hiding in really weird places, aren't they?
Like Salisbury.
I know.
Do you remember Salisbury?
I do.
That was because of that guy Skirple. And they tried to get... In the end, they killed a woman who was given a perfume bottle by a boyfriend that went through a bin.
It was all weird, wasn't it?
It was horrendous, but then, we kicked a few of their diplomats out, and then it's all business as usual. So anyway, Russian spy cells are lurking in Britain, and Chinese ones. A counter-terrorist chief warned us 6 Bulgarians were yesterday convicted of spying for the Kremlin. The ring received orders directly from Moscow and was run from a Great Yarmouth guest house stacked with sophisticated surveillance technology.
And did you see the raid? So they showed the video of the raid, and the guys were, you're mistaken, it's not me at all. And they went in, they had all this kit, which they did, all the sort of typical spy kit. It was James Bond.
I mean, in Great Yarmouth, you think you can get away with that
Great
sort of
Yarmouth,
thing.
you're lucky to find a place to stay.
It's very busy at the moment.
Very busy this time of year.
Lucky to have got a place there. The Daily Telegraph, what it means to be English. There's a big debate about this.
Well, what does it mean? What does it mean to be English?
I think it is a culture. I would say I'm not English. I'm British. I mean, you're English culturally and ethnically.
Well, what's that? It is interesting.
I think you have to have been here, like, from Anglo-Saxon stock. I mean,
Yes.
my family originally, on my dad's side, were here from Oliver Cromwell, like the first Jews in 1670. But I still wouldn't consider myself ethnically English. I think that's, you know, people who've been here 2,000, 3,000 years. I'm British, but I don't feel like, you know, I do feel English customs, and I feel the English.
What's an English
manners,
custom? What's an English custom?
Well, manners, fair play, and
manners
all that.
and fair play.
Pretending
Those
that
are
we
good
do
things.
it.
Those are good things.
You know, all good things, but that doesn't mean I'm ethnically English.
I'll tell you the biggest problem I've got with this, Ash, is that people around the world, America can be really proud to be Americans.
Yeah.
If you say you're English, you've got not only you might get slated, people could also call you racist.
Yeah, but
And
the thing is,
that's the
America's
difficulty,
different.
isn't it?
America is all an immigrant nation. Britain wasn't. Britain had an indigenous population that have been here thousands of years.
Well, you say that, but the Anglo-Saxons and the Swedes came over. So what is English? But
a long time ago.
Boadicea were the original Britons and that sort of
Exactly,
stuff.
they were Britain and the Beaker people.
Yes. Exactly, we love all that. It'd be interesting to hear what people say about being English, because we should be proud of where we come from. We should do that sort of stuff.
People are the opposite, aren't they?
Exactly. People are ashamed of it, and they call certain things racist. So we should look at that, what it means to be English.
Yeah.
We should have a sense of pride, and it doesn't mean that you're xenophobic, it doesn't mean that you're racist, it doesn't mean anything. We just have pride in being what we are.
But apparently the original English, you know, like thousands of years ago when we had saber-toothed tigers running around, they were dark-skinned with blue eyes.
Yes, there you go.
So gorgeous. We must have looked gorgeous back then. The Daily Telegraph revealed mastermind at centre of Russian spy ring, and there he is in happier times, kissing his...
Well, what's he got? It looks like he's got a sugar lump in his mouth, though.
It's his girlfriend. Oh, yeah, they're swapping... What are they swapping? Probably a cyanide pill.
It is. They should have...
Yeah.
I want to say, whoever took that picture, they knew.
Oh, so they're hunting for the tech king who rang Bulgarian gang and hundreds of secret operators. So he's on the run, and they're looking for him. This sounds like a film, doesn't it?
And to make it easy, they put a little Russian hat on her.
Yeah, so we can see. I do. It's a nice quality one. They do make good hats.
Good, those hats.
It's one thing. They make some good stuff.
Yeah.
Alison Pearson, officialdom is still blind to COVID disaster. I saw the report about this. With the Essex Police, obviously the police marking their own homework, and they said, yeah, we do believe still a crime was committed, but you know the CPS couldn't follow it through. So there's still sticking with
we need, and this is the problem with the media, not us, because we can come back to the stories. We need to keep going on about this to make sure we get to the bottom of it. And as I always say, sunlight is the best disinfectant. But there are so many horrendous things happened at that time, and it's a generation thing which should
still
never
going on
happen.
now.
Absolutely, and we've got to question these things. But follow the story through, because so many stories get out of the news and people miss out on it.
Exactly.
That we need to keep revisiting. Well, and Alison had her own problems. You know, with that sort of thing, that little report she did a tweet about a year ago, and she
Which was an error. It was an error, although no, she didn't actually. They wouldn't tell her what it was.
And that's the worst thing. So they went in. I think it was on Thanksgiving or whatever. It was. She was about to go to some sort of service. They burst in and didn't tell her what it was about, and she was arrested and went through that trauma.
Remembrance Sunday on the morning.
It was Remembrance Sunday. She was about to go to church, and it worked on that sort of basis. And so Alison Pearson, all credit to her. She's brilliant as an advocate for that. But we've got to stop. And it's these things about these non-crime hate incidents, and that's what she was suffering from that point of view.
Although they say no, it was actually a crime. They sort of changed the goalposts. But the ultimate problem with this is David Cameron, you know, he set up the college, all these quangos, he set up the College of Policing, and they don't listen to the government. I mean, Priti Patel said, I think... Braverman said, right, you've got to stop these non-crime hate. And this quango, the College of Policing, said, no, we're keeping going. And they're turning down the government. So this is what Reform Party are doing so well, although not currently at the moment. But, you know, they've got to reform basically what Blair did and then what was carried on. I mean, he was seen as a successor to Blair, David Cameron, a Conservative Prime Minister, should have been there and dismantling all what Blair did, but he just went along with it.
And this is the whole thing. I mean, freedom of speech is so the fundamental right. And as J.D. Vance said, you know, freedom of speech, it's a much bigger threat. You know, the threat to freedom of speech than the Russians is what J.D. Vance is saying.
And sovereignty. I mean, this climate change committee, that's another quango. They don't get what Parliament decides. They decide themselves. And a lot of them are made up of people who have financial gains for, you know, these windmills.
You're absolutely right. And what I love about what we do on this programme, we give people an opportunity to speak, effectively to hang themselves. It's like our last caller and so on and so forth. You talk about things, give them an opportunity to speak so you hear their side of it. And the audience, this is what people always forget, the audience at home are far, far more intelligent than people give them credit for. So we're not just going to spoon feed them propaganda. Make sure people get the evidence so they can make informed decisions.
Substantial change to electric car targets. I mean, the electric car doesn't really work. What you've got to invent is a battery that's about the size of the engine, and then you drive into an Esso or a BP or a Shell garage over a sort of square. Basically, a machine comes up out the floor, undoes the battery, puts in a fresh one, you're out in 2 minutes. That would work, that would be like petrol. But actually plugging in a car and waiting, and then that's just so backward. Oh, you've got to plug it. And not only that, if you put it on a fast charger, you're damaging the battery. Yes. And, you know, it costs more than petrol now. If you haven't got a driveway, you've got to pay 10 times what you've got.
It's crazy. I'll tell you what the future is. It's called dynamic charging. And what you're going to hear more about this. What are you talking about, Willis? I'll tell you what I'm talking about. And you're going to hear more about this as we come along. It's whilst you're driving along, it will charge you.
But that's a hybrid.
No, but it works on the sort of basis. There's different things that you can put in the roads and so on and so forth. So it's a dynamic charging. You're right. Doing things.
You mean charging pay per mile and all that?
Yeah, well,
we don't want that. That's what said it can't put those ULEZ cameras in.
Exactly.
You know, we pay enough anyway. He wants to charge like £1 a mile. You know, I like to just go around driving in my gas guzzler. You know what I mean? And watch the people coughing
up the battery as you go along. That's what.
But yeah, we had electric taxis in London in about the 1870s.
Yeah, that's
and
great.
They used to drive to the base and they'd swap the battery out. They had a range of about 35 miles, and that they were doing it better 150 years ago, plugging in your car, really like it's a Hoover.
And travelling around London was a lot quicker then in horse and carriage,
all these
wasn't it?
journalists who you used to see on Top Gear who would be they're all suddenly pro-electric, a lot of them, and you know they've been got to.
Oh,
you know they've been got to. They're being paid.
I don't know they've been got to.
Yeah, you do. We can't lie. We're not naming anyone. We're saying generally. You
just said all of them. You don't need to name them.
Not all of them.
You just said all of them.
I didn't say all. I said some of them because I know Clarkson isn't.
There you go.
I know there's a lot of them aren't. The hamster, he won't be.
Yes.
Trump talks tough to Putin over peace. Can't read it. The font's too small now. Photocopy.
But we spoke about that, didn't we?
We talked about that. Reform Civil War. We talked about that with Rupert and Rupert Everett. No, not Rupert Everett.
Rupert Everett would be interesting.
Rupert,
whose side are you on?
It's a difficult one, but I mean, Rupert has denied all allegations. Obviously, there's other things going on, but I think what happened is there must have been a disagreement behind closed doors, and then Rupert's realised it's not. It's gone a bit to his head. He knows he's doing well. He was getting a lot of adulation, and people were going off Nigel a bit and saying, "Why is he not doing this? Why is he suddenly saying this?" And we've got a poll actually on X, and he's doing very well, Rupert Lowe, and he speaks very well. But isn't Nigel ultimately the leader? He's the guy. He's the most influential politician of this millennium, getting Brexit done. And he's the man who can do it. He might not be the man to be PM. He might be the man to get us there.
It is interesting. I had Ben Habib on the Andrew Reborn show. Thank you. And he was... What happened? So Ben has famously fallen out with Nigel. And he said that when Nigel was told that Ben was leaving Reform, Nigel started singing. The sun has got his hat on. He did. So he loved it. He was so happy. There is no love lost there. But Reform was born in this very studio. Dr. David Bull of this parish and Richard Tice were the original people.
And they were chatting to go, should we start a party?
There was.
Wasn't Nigel not to do with the start of that?
No, he was brought in. So he basically, having got, as you say, been the inspiration.
Trust arrives on foot and then sunlight disinfects it.
We could do our party, couldn't we? We could do that.
Daily Star, £15 UK holidays. Can't be a very good holiday for 15 quid. And you're talking about the sun's got his hat on. Here come the grills, hotter than Ibiza.
Amazing,
It's going to be a sizzler. Brits will bask. Sorry,
easy for you to say.
In 20 degrees Celsius. That's about 70 odd Fahrenheit.
Money, yes.
This weekend, hotter than Ibiza. It'll be the dog's Balearics for sun lovers. So get your sunscreen on and a hanky on your head.
You could do that. I'm going to be in Cannes. I'll be in Cannes at the weekend.
Get yourself up to Blackpool. Support Blackpool and Brighton and your local town, your local seaside towns, if they haven't dropped into the ocean, because they are doing that.
Oh, no, it's a bit worrying seeing the erosion, isn't it?
And the spy who loved the UK anyway.
There you go.
We're going to quickly whip through, because in a minute we're just going to be your calls.
Yes.
The Daily Mirror. Honey trap spies face jail. Well, yeah, you would do. 3 Bulgarians who plotted honey trap stings to snare their targets have been convicted of spying for tyrant Vladimir Putin. Anyway, and 2005 racing fixtures, half-pint.
There we are, that's all good.
Weekend, UK animal rights may be watered down as price of Labour's Brexit reset with Europe. Because we're very good to our animals.
We're very good to our animals, and this is about basically transporting live animals.
It keeps them fresh. I mean, that's what we used used to do them to Smithfield, take them down Hampstead Heath. You keep them alive so they're nice and fresh.
Well, this is about sort of making sure about animal rights. We look after
it's
our animals
horrendous when you
much
see
better.
sheep in this cattle truck stuff.
But this is what. So I always said that Boris has got elected on basically get Brexit done. Starmer's basically getting Brexit undone, and
Even
this is one of the things.
Yeah,
this is one of the things about animal rights are going to suffer as a result. And this is this great article in the Eye. They're basically saying that they're being forced to do a U-turn over its ban on live animal exports and foie gras in exchange for a new trade deal with the EU.
Do you eat foie gras? That's where they shove a tube down a goose's throat.
I only eat the nice one, and that's the noise
and
it does
smells
make.
their liver, and then they put them in. It's horrendous stuff. I don't eat it. I like chopped liver. Inside story: Mandelson, the King, and fast track plan for Trump to visit Scotland when he's got a golf course. So what's going?
Well, no, his mother was from Scotland.
That's
as
right.
Well. Mary, she's on that island. Yeah.
But Mandelson, you know, everyone says he's a genius. He's like, you know, he's amazing. This guy. He's been put in by Blair. Blair's still running things from the back. We'll get this digital ID soon, won't we? But what's your view on Mandelson?
I think it's about being effective, isn't it? And it's not necessarily my view. Anybody who wants to be your ambassador, you want to make sure, if you understand the man Trump, you've got to work out how to handle him. Zelensky made a massive mistake in the way that he handled him.
Mandelson knows how to do that.
And this is what you need to do. So you've got to work out, and seeing how Starmer squirmed up and dribbled all over Trump was extraordinary. It was distasteful after all the things he said.
I'm very proud of our history of free speech. Not like I got rid of it now, but our history I'm very proud of. And then they took him in the back, J.D. Vance, who looks a bit like Benny Hill, and Donald Trump, and they roughed him up and said, "What are you talking about? You haven't got free speech."
Exactly, we love it. But he did compliment him. So Trump did compliment Starmer on his voice. He said, if I had a voice like that, I would have got elected earlier.
He was taking the mick. He also said he had a nice suit. So he was basically saying, I like the suit that Lord Ali gave you, and your voice is wonderful from all those amazing voice coaching lessons. I think he was sort of ribbing him.
They know, just as we said last time about the planned theatrics with Zelensky, all those sort of things, they know how to play the media. And their ambassador to the UK, as I say, is Mark Burnett, who was the producer behind The Apprentice, who basically moulded Trump on that sort of basis. So in terms of effectiveness, you've got to say, how is Mandelson going to cope with somebody like Trump? If he knows how to play all those sort of sweet spots, then that's the way to do it. But the thing about Zelensky as well, everybody was talking about his suit, and I did a bit of research on this. Winston Churchill very famously wore what was called the siren suit.
Yeah, but he had it made in Savile Row. He designed it himself.
It was a fancy one, wasn't it?
And when he went to dinners, he'd still wear a suit. Anyway, we've got to take a little breaky, but we're celebrating International Women's Day. Woo! And we'll be talking to various people, but you too, 03444 99 1000. It's Talk to James Welsh Show, but where is he? I don't know. He'll be back next Friday at 10. Back in a couple of minutes. Yeah, you heard the man. It's talk. Andrew's sitting next to me because we've got some guests now. Because it's International Women's Day from midnight. You can sense it, can't you? You can hear it. You can just feel it in the air. And because of that, we've got a woman as a guest.
Good heavens!
And we've got a man as a guest, and we're going to discuss the various things about International Women's Day. But the first thing we're going to talk about is abortion. Should abortion be legal across the whole world? Now, you two, we've got Farage and we've got Matt, and they work on our team, but they've got opposing views. Farage, you think you're a Kazakh journalist,
a very good Kazakh journalist,
and you believe that women should have the right to abortion. Absolutely. And Matt, you're against it.
Well, I just don't think abortion's a good thing. I think it should be discouraged. But
should they be forced to have a baby?
Should women who have consensual sex risk getting pregnant? Probably, yeah.
They should be forced.
Well, what is the forced?
You'd have to strap them down and. You'd have to stop them getting. You'd get backstreet abortions.
I don't think you should ban all abortions if that's what you're.
Which abortions? So it's really easy to work on what's a common ground. Yeah. Which abortions and in what circumstances would you allow it?
So elective abortions are questionable, in my opinion. That being an abortion for any reason that isn't medical, basically. So with the example of medical abortions,
yes.
Ectopic pregnancies, miscarriages, rape, incest. That stuff's acceptable.
What if they haven't got
that stuff is not acceptable?
What if they don't want a baby and they've accidentally, they've used all the contraception, but they've accidentally got pregnant, and there could be massive problems if they have a kid?
Can I add to that quickly?
Yeah,
First of all, 164 million women worldwide don't actually have access to normal, conventional contraceptive methods. So that's one of the problems, and that just shows that women don't actually have access for sex education in their school. Because we're talking about worldwide abortions, we're not talking about in the Western world, right? And it's just so terrible, because once you ban abortions, only 41% is going to be conducted safely. So 59% of women are going to be faced with internal bleeding, infection, potentially sepsis, anemia, infertility, and even disability in some cases. And I'm just saying, removing that option, and that's pretty much condemning 59% of women to unsafe abortions that leads to stuff
But
like
what
that.
should the time limit be? I mean, should there be a time limit? Because, babies that are viable are killed in abortions. I think it's up to 24 weeks in this country, and there have been people who were born at 24 weeks. There was a guy born earlier, I think it was David Alton, 18 weeks he wanted to bring it to. What would you... I mean, I would say when it's a ball of cells within a month, and it hasn't really got a brain or anything, isn't that... Isn't that, or
is that reasonable? I think yes. Just to be clear.
So you do. So it can be elective.
But I think it can be elective up to a certain point. But we live in a.
We've got some stats.
I've got some stats. 73 million abortions per year. 200,000 a day.
2 world wars a year worth of baby deaths.
200,000 a day. 29% of all pregnancies end in abortion. That's a lot. That's nearly a third. And 61% of mistakes end in abortion. Are they counting abortion as the after? Morning after pill?
May I also add? We're paying for the abortions. The NHS is killing our people.
Okay, so we talked about the minimum ground, where you said there are certain circumstances where you would allow an abortion. Are there circumstances where you wouldn't allow it?
Okay, I think a lot of people with common sense who are pro-choice are going to argue the fact that the system does need a bit of tweaking.
Right.
Because you can't go and say, "Can I have an abortion when you're 9 months pregnant?" That's really inhumane.
But you can.
However,
but people were arguing for that.
You can do that, and that's the problem.
But you're talking about extreme circumstances.
You can't do that in this country.
About day-to-day scenarios.
If you say you're suicidal, you can.
Okay.
Really?
Up
to 9 months old.
Up to 9 months.
Well, let's get your red lines. If we get your red lines, because it's very helpful. You've said in certain circumstances you would, and you're going to say in certain circumstances you couldn't.
Okay. Well, I think it's very much up for a discussion, and I think it's case-by-case situation, because with stuff like PCOS on the rise, 1 in 5 women in the UK has PCOS, which means that she doesn't have stable periods. She cannot control, so she may not even know that she's pregnant up to a certain period.
Yes.
Up until she feels that something's wrong and she needs to go and take an exam or something. So I think that what we have now in place, 21 weeks, it doesn't seem like it's a bad thing. I think
it's 24 weeks.
It's 21 weeks from what I've heard, but I think it's different in the US and in the UK.
Yeah.
But worldwide, we're speaking about different.
I think it was 24 here. They tried to get it down to 19 or 18.
And what do you then say? So there are certain circumstances where you say there shouldn't be allowed an abortion. There are certain circumstances where you say you should. So you've got your common ground there. If we were to write the rules then on that sort of basis, and it does change around the world, and we talk about horrendous circumstances where clearly if it's rape, if it's incest...
Can I talk about the horrendous circumstances?
Yes,
because that's less than 5% of abortions.
Well, the stats
and that would be done
yeah.
earlier on, presumably.
Yeah, exactly. So if 95% of abortions are elective, meaning no reason
absolutely.
given.
So what we're looking at, and these are horrendous statistics, 73 million abortions per year.
2 World War IIs.
200,000 per day has got to be wrong. The concern...
60 million killed in World War II, so...
Oh, sorry.
Absolutely
I thought it was 40 million.
So let's look at what the rules should be, because we've got the principle about what the current statistics are. What do you think the rules should be?
I think if you wish to have an abortion up to, say, 19, 20 weeks, you should be permitted to do it. I'm not sure that the NHS should be paying for it. I think they should probably
okay, but that's a different thing. 19, 20 weeks. What do you say?
I say it's case-by-case situation.
Okay.
Like, this isn't just a simple conversation. We're talking about women's fundamental reproductive rights.
Yes.
I mean, to be having this conversation, it's so important, because this is a very Western problem to be having this debate, you know? You get situations where people are hanged, women are sent to prison for doing stuff like that. And that is terrible, because at the end of the day, it's her choice, it's her body.
Should it just be women
But it's not
who
just her
decide
body, it's
on
not just her
this? 'Cause,
body, and that's the problem.
You know, you hear men talking
is.
about it, and, you know, should men actually
What's
have
the
a say?
baby
Shouldn't
then?
it all be up to women, basically, because they're the ones who have to carry the babies?
I think so, but the thing is with this, it's case-by-case situation. If you're a family and you're planning to have kids, then you should have a conversation with your partner. But if you're a single woman and you realize that you're pregnant, you don't have a stable relationship, you don't have a stable partner, you don't have a stable job.
Why not?
What do you mean, Matt? Okay, another point. Let's just say if you are having casual intercourse as a man, why don't you just get a vasectomy then, so you don't have that problem?
I'm against that.
Against vasectomies?
No, not against vasectomies. I think if you're having sex with someone,
but the woman ultimately has to carry the baby. So why should the man have it?
And the man should ultimately pay for it.
So, assuming that you were pregnant with Matt's baby, who would have the choice over what happens to that baby?
Me. Period.
I think it would have to be a joint decision, and ultimately.
Well, she's disagreeing with you.
So you're going to force her to have the baby?
You'll force her to have the baby, would you, Matt?
How would you stop her having an abortion?
I think if we were dating and you got an abortion, I'd dump you.
Well, she'd probably want to. If you didn't want your baby, she'd probably want you to.
You don't want to give her an incentive.
No, but I don't. But
break it to her gently, Matt.
I wouldn't want my wife or girlfriend to kill our kid.
Okay, Matt, let's just say you are a reasonable young man, right? You're talking about yourself.
Well, we thought he was.
Well, you're talking about yourself, but not every single guy thinks like that. First of all, a lot of men, they have aspirations. They're not ready to be a father. They're not ready to have that extreme...
So why are they ready to have sex?
Okay, Matt, that's a whole different conversation. We're going to talk about...
It's not just about having babies,
it's about intercourse.
So let's look back at the stage. You're very clear it's a woman's right to choose. You're saying it's a joint decision. Let's look at the circumstance. So if the fetus has deformities, which you can spot early on, what would happen? Would you then give permission to have an abortion in those sort of circumstances?
I personally wouldn't do that. I wouldn't have an abortion if my child, but that's because I'm at an age where I can actually have a child physically, mentally. I'm ready to have a child. I'm 24, I can do that. I can afford to have a child.
Yes.
But we're talking about women worldwide who get pregnant at 15, at 16.
Or younger even.
But hold on. Can I just interrupt?
Yes.
Because Andrew asked specifically about deformities, right?
Right, yeah.
In Iceland, I think since they introduced abortion, they haven't had a single Down syndrome baby, and so is Down syndrome reason enough to get an abortion?
Well, some people love the Down syndrome and have great lives.
I don't think it is. I think
Down syndrome people have great lives.
I wouldn't do that, but that's a different question.
But we're writing the laws.
No, exactly.
It's not what you would do. This is should someone be allowed to abort their child with Down syndrome? In my opinion, no.
Yes.
Okay, I disagree.
Well, you can disagree, but you've asked me a question. I personally wouldn't do that because that's a question of ethics, right? What we have. But also keep in mind financial reasons. When you bring a child into
financial
the world,
reasons aren't adequate for killing people.
This is not.
Well,
people.
They do
We're
with
talking
euthanasia
about
now.
They connected to a woman, and she gives him oxygen. She gives him food. She gives him everything that fetus possibly needs. So that is not a fully different person.
And what about all these girls who have one-night stands
Yeah.
on that sort of basis and get pregnant?
Well, once again, I don't think that's. Why should the baby die because of a one-night stand?
But you're not going to stand by the woman, are you, if she's
well,
pregnant?
I think. Look,
And you have a one-night stand.
If you have a
if
one-night stand,
if a man abandons his family and his kids, there should be.
But is it his family if he has a
consequences.
one-night stand?
If you have a child, that's your family.
Well, yeah, but I mean...
Would you stay with somebody who had a
you would
one-night
just
stand?
give up your whole life and marry that person who you just had a one-night stand with?
Assuming you go out several times, seven times a week, 7 different women,
yes,
and they all turn around and say, "We're all pregnant, Matt."
Oh,
they don't pay you enough here, do they? So what are you going to do then?
I'd have to get very creative then, wouldn't I?
Would you do that?
OnlyFans.
Bearing in mind,
You see, there's practicalities, isn't there?
the
You know what I
cost
mean?
of a child could be about $250,000 they're working out by the time you've fed them. It would ruin your life, it would ruin the women's life as well, and would also ruin the baby's life as a result of quality.
You're right.
What would you...
Well, not
it's my
necessarily.
job to
The
be
baby
right.
might have a
What
good
would you
life.
do in that circumstance?
Well, the problem is I've not had 7 kids, so...
No, but we're looking at the situation.
We're looking
what would
at the
you do?
future, Matt.
One-night stands,
Yeah.
what would you do in those circumstances?
For me, I personally am very paternal, so the idea of killing my own kid is just totally
So you
out
would
of
have
question.
7 babies?
You'd have to.
You?
I would have to, correct.
You would have 7
But you
babies?
see, it's not practical
But
what
that's
you're
not
saying.
up
Well,
to
no,
you.
you're right, it's not practical, but that's why I don't live that lifestyle, so...
Are you religious? Are you taking it from a religious point of view?
I believe in God, yeah.
Okay,
and I consider kids a blessing as well.
Okay, can I ask you a personal
Yeah,
question?
go
You
on.
don't have to answer that if you want. Are you having casual intercourse?
No.
Are you having
Not right
intercourse?
now.
Not right now.
When you're in a relationship,
Of course.
do you use contraceptive methods to provide
all the time?
Did you know that?
I'll also add condoms are dirt cheap as well. There's no if you
But if you got
But
her
did you know
pregnant,
that
you
they're
would just
not
say
100%?
we want. And what if she said to you, "I don't want this baby"?
they're-
What would that? You'd finish with her, and that would be it.
Well, you know.
Even if you really love her and you know she wants to stay with you, but she doesn't want the baby, you know. Let's talk practicalities.
If she really loved me and wanted to stay with me, I don't know why she wouldn't want to have.
Well, so
a
she
family.
Because it's
doesn't
her
want it,
life
you
and
know.
it's her body. Did you know
Yes.
that?
No, it's our life. We're talking about having
But
a
it's her
family.
body.
Are you the
But we're
one?
having a
Are you
family.
the
It's her
one
body,
carrying
though.
that child? Are you the one having to
No,
give
but
birth and go through that traumatic?
If I'm in a family, I'm the one who's providing for it.
What happens, Matt,
Oh,
if
not
you
necessarily.
deliberately...
Well, no, but we've discussed that. I would be there. We're not talking about deadbeat fathers here.
Yeah,
we're
but
talking
she'd
about
be the
someone
one
who'd be
actually there. You know what I
Absolutely.
mean?
And it's International Women's Day,
Correct.
and the argument about being a woman's body. And they all say sometimes people get deliberately pregnant and one person doesn't do it. If you got somebody deliberately pregnant and they didn't want it, is that fair on them?
Oh, do you know what? I probably think it's not fair, no.
Right, look, we're going to talk to Ken. We're going to take a break first and then talk to him. Yeah, we'll take a little break and then we're going to have Ken in London who's going to make sense of all this. Right, yeah, it's Talk. It's a James Wells show, but he's gone home early. He'll be back next week at 10 03444 999 1000. We've got Farage and we've got Matt. I'm discussing with Matt. He's had, to celebrate International Women's Day, he's had 7 one-night stands and got them all pregnant. No, not really. But anyway, to make sense of all this and get a neutral point of view, let's go to Ken in London. Hallelujah.
Oh.
What is your views on all this? Have you heard the discussion, Ken?
I've been listening carefully. This is a very, very serious issue, and if you'd please allow me, let me present some biological facts about the child in the mother's womb.
Away you go.
Day 1, DNA, sex, colour of hair, eyes and skin are all determined on day 1 of conception.
Yeah, with the
Between
DNA.
16 and 21 days, a baby's heart begins to beat.
Yeah.
After 42 days, brain waves are detected. After 52 days, hiccups and yawns. After 8 weeks, respond to touch. 9 weeks, they have fingerprints. And in 12 weeks, some mums can feel their baby move. This is the biological...
So you're saying when the brain waves happen, when they're sentient, is when you should draw the line at like 8 weeks?
No, right at the beginning, Ash, the DNA is established.
Yes.
Sex, the DNA is established on day 1.
But you could say that about, you know, spilling your seed is a potential baby. Is that as much of a sin?
I think it's the conception part, isn't it?
Well, I don't know. If you waste your seed, that's babies, isn't it, Ken? Every sperm's sacred.
Ash, you're taking us on to another issue here. Just let's stick to this issue of abortion.
Sorry, mate.
Approximately 70 million babies are murdered on Earth since
73 million. 73 million, Ken. That's what we said. 200,000 a day.
No, abortion is not about a woman's choice. Abortion is about the willful murder and death of a baby in its mother's womb.
Yeah, but Farage, right? She's against this. She's a woman. Isn't it up to the women, really?
Listen, our government licenses the murder of babies, and the judgment
Ken, can I ask you a quick question?
Let Farage speak to you and ask you a question.
I don't know how you seem to think that it's not a woman's choice, because are you the one that's having to be 9 months pregnant, and then when the baby is born, are you the one that's up there every single night when every single child has some sort of problems when they're born? You know, either it's like colics or whatever it is, there's always something, and the dad is usually never really around because he has to work. That's usually the case, because maternity leave is longer than paternity leave.
Dear young lady, you're entitled to your opinion, but listen, a woman has no right to kill a baby outside of her womb. Why does she have the right
Ken,
to kill
what would you do if you were the one that was getting pregnant? But you're not, so we wouldn't be having this conversation if men were the one that's getting pregnant.
Listen to the question. A woman has no right to kill the baby outside of her womb, and she has no right to kill the baby inside of her womb. She's no choice in this matter.
Can I clarify a couple of points, because it's really helpful. Now, we always talk about the extreme examples. What about a baby conceived through rape?
Are you asking me that question?
Yes, I am.
The baby's to be kept alive. The baby's
what about incest?
The baby's to be kept alive. It's not.
What about an 11-year-old raped by her father?
The baby has to be kept. It's not the baby.
All right, now what about this one, Ken? Because I remember we had a guest on about 28 years ago. She was pregnant with, she'd had IVF, and she was pregnant with 6 babies, and the doctors said, you've got to have three of them aborted or they're all going to die. And she said, no, I'm going to let it go naturally. And in fact, they did all die because of that. What would your view on that be? Because you'd be saving lives with an abortion then.
Well, Ash, the most precious thing in life is human life. I'm answering your question.
Yeah, well, that's why the doctor said. That's why the doctor said you should have 3 aborted. So, what is your answer to that specific question about this woman with 6 babies who, if she had them and she did, they'd all die? What would your view there be? To have them all die and that would be God's will?
Okay, go on, Ken.
We have no right to kill another human being unless.
Well, you believe in medical advances. This would result in 6 deaths, where you could save 3 lives here, Ken. So you're actually extinguishing 3 lives with that answer.
Can I ask something?
Yeah.
Go for it, Matt.
If medical advances rendered abortions, basically, you could conceive a kid, and then the kid would be taken out of the mother and then raised in a cell or whatever. Would you then be allowed to abolish abortion? Because then, you know, you can actually keep the kid alive. I think that's a reasonable question.
Here's the thought for the day.
Well, I'd like you to answer that one about what I just asked about the 6 babies, where the doctor said you could take 3 away and 3 will survive. If you don't, they'll all die, and they all died. So actually, that point, you know, what would you say about that? Because the abortion would save lives in that case.
That's a very strong point, Ash. That's a very strong and important question. I believe only God can answer that. But
so all the 6 babies would have died the way you're going, whereas 3 wouldn't have if you carry out the abortion.
So as I understand it as a Christian, the only right for abortion is when the life of the mother is at stake.
Well, it was also at stake, but here there was 3. There was 6 babies died because there was no abortion.
Can I just say quickly? Ken, Andrew asked you a question, and that if 11-year-old girl that was raped by her father, and you said that she would have to be giving birth, right? Is that correct?
Yeah, you can't kill the baby.
Okay, did you know that 11-year-old child is a baby? She is a girl who didn't go through puberty. Chances are she's gonna die. So you're putting her life below an unborn fetus.
Yeah, because they're physically, their bodies aren't developed. The childbirth would kill a lot of children.
No, I agree. But how is an 11-year-old a baby but a fetus isn't?
Okay, let's
exactly, because she's a developed person.
Make your point. Let Ken respond, because I really, it's so important to work out where the lines are. Ken.
Because Ken here, he's saying that it's all about human life, but then he doesn't really care about the human life of an 11-year-old girl, does he?
Well, you did say about if there's a medical problem for the mother, you would accept it then. So, in fact, in that case, you would accept abortion for an 11-year-old because it would endanger her life.
I think it's what God accepts. I think in the choice of a mother's life or the baby's life, I think that the mother would be spared. And in that case, there would be possibly, according to God, allow the death of the baby. That wee baby would go straight to heaven. But listen, just let me... There's over 820 abortions every day in the UK. 1 in 3 women in this country have an abortion before the age of 45. And 42.4% of women have had 1 or more previous abortions. It's being used as a contraceptive method.
Yes, and so you've been very clear, Ken. That's you say it shouldn't be used for that. Just 10 seconds, because I want to get clarity from Ken. You've made that very clear that you wouldn't accept that. What you have said, however, there are circumstances where an abortion would be okay if it saves another life. Is that fair?
For the mother, yeah.
If the mother and the baby were both going to die, one could be saved, and I think God would choose the mother because the baby will go straight to heaven.
Farage, what's your views?
This is just outrageous to me. I really don't think that you understand, Ken, that this is something that you're never going to have to deal with. And the fact that you talk about it from such a high pedestal is astonishing to me. You sit here and saying, because you're never going to be affected by this. This isn't, you know, your right stripped away from you. This is a person who has been on this life, who has the right to choose whether or not what to do with her body, period. No questions asked, don't you think?
What do you mean no questions asked, though? Because the question would be, if 9 months in she's pregnant and she says, I want an abortion...
We already covered that, Matt, and I said that 9 months is not okay, so I already know what you're trying to pick here, but that's not what we're discussing.
You said no questions asked.
So, okay, let Ken come back on that point, and then we'll come to you, Matt. Ken?
Yeah, these are all good points. This is a very, very difficult situation. But the baby has a right to life. Somebody has to speak up for the baby in the mother's womb.
And you think that that's you?
It's the Christians, or not just a Christian. A non-Christian can have the same viewpoint. Abortion is irrefutably willful murder, and God's judgment is coming to this
Okay, but if you want to talk about religion, every religion is about forgiveness, empathy, and understanding.
Yes, could she be forgiven, Ken? Of course, if you have an abortion, you can be forgiven.
Yes, so if there's any listen to...
And the baby, in your view, the baby would go straight to heaven anyway, in your religious point of view.
The babies go straight to heaven.
Yeah.
Let me tell you about my dear sister. She's dead now. You don't know who she is. She fell pregnant at a young age, and my mother and my sister they decided to keep the baby, and the baby went out to abortion. And my sister went to visit her son. He lived in Australia, and they had a wonderful relationship. Other people would have had that wee boy killed, and my sister's his son would never have lived. She met her son because they spared his life because he is a precious soul. But here's a thought. The baby
Leave us with this thought, because we've got to take a break, but what is your final thought, Ken? Ken's final thought
is that anyone who's listened to this who's aborted a child, God is merciful, God is loving, He offers everyone forgiveness. If you truly repent of your sin of abortion and sincerely believe in the Lord Jesus Christ,
God will forgive
Everything will be
you.
all right. Well, thanks, Ken. Thanks for that.
Ken.
Anyway, we're going to take a break. Thanks, Matt and Farage. That was brilliant. And we're going to finish off with just your calls, and we'll be back in 2 minutes. Yeah, it's Talk to James Wells show, but he's gone home. Back here next week at 10. It's me and Andrew Eborn. Well, no point calling now. We've got a full board, so we're just going to whip through the calls now. Let's start with Janice in Essex.
Hello, Janice.
Oh, you're going to whip through me, are you?
Yeah, we're going to whip through you, Janice.
Oh.
With
Right,
protection.
I'll speak to you anyway.
Yeah.
I did speak to James earlier about a friend, but I want to change the subject. Right. How come 2 weeks ago, Starmer was the worst Prime Minister we ever had?
He still is.
He had a little chat with Trump, and then Zelensky. Now he's the best thing.
But he's
since
not, is he?
sliced
The
bread.
public don't feel that. It's the activist press that are publicising this. But we don't think any better. In fact, we think worse of him because he's just two-sided, going on about how we're very proud of our free speech while he's slamming people in prison for hurty words.
Yeah,
we all can see through it, the public.
absolutely.
It's this bent legacy mainstream media. There's only us and probably one other place that's actually telling you the truth, Janice. Don't believe the hype.
What do you think, Janice? You don't believe him, do you?
I know you guys do.
Yeah.
I know you guys do. I know you're there for me.
Yeah.
I know.
Thanks, Janice. Anyway, let's go to
All right,
Frank.
love you guys.
Love
you
you
too.
too.
Janice.
Ta-ra
Thank
for a
you
bit.
for taking my calls. Thank you. Thank you.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Yeah, put the phone down.
Bye, love.
Frank in Hartlepool,
Put
the monkey hanger.
I will put the phone
We've
down.
lost our tech up. We can't get rid of her. Anyway, let's go.
You can't get rid
We
of
can't
her.
get rid. You may as well carry on then, Janice. You may as well just carry on.
I love you guys.
We love you
No,
too,
don't
Janice.
go anywhere. We haven't got someone to switch the calls right now. Let me try this. Maybe I can do it.
You
on
want
it.
a house?
Yeah.
Is that what you do?
I can't do it.
He's driving
Can't do it.
very
Frank.
good. Hello, Frank.
Oh, hey guys.
Hi, Frank in Hartlepool. What's going on, Frank? What do you want to talk about?
Oh, I've got to listen.
Oh, she's still there, Janice.
Yeah,
Janice, you're still here. Hold on, let Frank
I want
speak.
to listen.
Yeah, well,
Please,
just be quiet. Just keep your phone. We can't cut you off. So just stay quiet.
Janice is lovely.
No, he's put a radio on now. Where's our tech person gone? He's just because he was on air talking about abortion. He's thought, I'm going to go home now. I've done my bit. I haven't been paid for it. Anyway, Frank, go on and see if you can talk around Janice.
No worries, buddy.
Janice.
Shut up.
Just listen,
Yeah.
Janice. Frank.
Shut up.
Yeah, Frank.
Should listen to my mother-in-law. Oh, no. All right, I'll tell you what, guys. It's kind of it's about abortion, but it's not about that. It's about blokes. We always come second.
Not necessarily. Most times.
Behave.
Sorry, yeah, Frank. Yeah.
No worries.
Yeah, but we don't carry the baby, Frank.
There you go. What are your views, Frank? What do you think of Matt having 7 night stands and having babies with
Disgusting,
each
without
of them?
condoms or anything. And just running away.
But you know what I was saying was, just for it's our fault every time. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
It's just that.
I don't think we can cut him off though, so we're just stuck with him. Correct. Yeah.
What's our fault, Frank?
Yeah, what's our fault, Frank?
No, you know what I'm saying? If you get a phone call, my God, I'm pregnant.
You're pregnant?
Congratulations.
Frank, like that Arnold Schwarzenegger film. This is incredible. Anyway, thanks, Frank and Janice. I don't suppose you'll go, but just be quiet on your phones while we go to the next one. Can you put Ali in Newcastle on, or are we not?
Ali, hello, Ali.
Oh.
No, we can't. No,
Can't have Ali.
We've got to stick with Frank and Janice.
Well,
it's the
Frank,
Frank
have you
and
met
Janice
Janice?
show.
What's your view, Janice?
No, Ali's on now.
Ali, go on then.
Please get me here.
Janice, be quiet. Just listen on the phone. We can't cut you off.
I will.
Ali.
Shut up. Oh, shut up.
Yeah, Ali. Oh, he's back now. Can you cut Janice off? She's been very polite.
Oh, here he is. Matt's come back.
Ali in Newcastle.
Matt's just finished his 1 night stand.
Hi, man. Ali, what do you want to talk about?
Janice needs to shut up.
I have.
Has she shut up?
Yeah, Janice is still there. What, Janice?
Go on, Ali.
Just listen on your head. He's here now. He won't even cut you off.
It's my time to talk, Janice.
Ali, it's your time to shine.
Thank you, Ash.
Away you go.
Thank you.
What do you want to say then?
All I want to do tonight, I think it's been a very, very, very sad tonight.
It's been
Tonight
what?
has been so sad,
Fact.
and I would like to sing to you.
Go on then. That's what we need, Ali. Yeah, go on. Away you go. Sing us a song.
Ready? Bring it up a bit.
You used to be a professional singer, didn't you? I think I remember you.
How do you know that?
It's just I'm like Derek Accord.
Go for it. Show us how professional you are.
Tonight you are going to be. Give us a song. What are you going to sing for us tonight?
I want to sing to you tonight, Songbird.
Away you go.
For you, there'll be no crying. For you, I'll never be cold. But I will not have an abortion until somebody asks me nicely.
Ali, are you from Italy? Where are you from?
I am from Oldham.
Oldham, you
That's
can
not
tell.
an Oldham accent,
Oh,
though.
if
I mean,
up the road a bit, it is.
Is that an Oldham accent?
I'm joking, but can you please say hello to Corey?
Oh, you are Oldham now.
Hello, Corey.
Are you like the guy Joe Docci? What's the matter? You are shut up, your face.
Was that good?
Anyway, look, Ali, do you think you could do a duet with Graham? Graham in West London. Graham, join in with Ali. What you got for us, Graham? Away you go.
Here we go.
Ali, sing with Graham.
Well, Q is cancer. God save James.
Here we go.
Give me my tune. God save
Can you hear me, Graham?
Oh God, save
I think they've got something here.
I think this is great.
Sonny and Cher. This is fantastic stuff.
Live forever.
Oh, I love the Graham. Me phones every weekend.
Cancer away. God save
That is magnificent. Right, let's get another caller.
Thank you, Anne.
They're still both there.
I think
It's like when we did that was means you. Have we got any more? You haven't lined up any more. Well, Ali, have you got anything you want to talk about?
Abortion-wise,
Go on then.
absolutely.
Have you not got anything else you want to talk? It's International Women's Day.
Oh, yes, what are your views on that?
What are you going to do to
International Women's
celebrate that you're a woman today?
What I actually want to do is just bring it up a bit, because it has been a bit depressing.
I know,
tonight,
yeah.
I'll
Could
be
you get a
honest
bit
with you.
depressing that last bit? You know, we don't want to talk about it on a Friday night. We don't want to talk about that sort of thing. We want
It has
sing.
all been a bit sad, hasn't
So
it?
make us a bit happier, Ali. Talk about something else. What's going on in Oldham? No, it's going to make us more depressed, isn't it? I'm going to be more depressed.
I'll tell you what, bugger around.
Just have you got anything else you want to talk about? You know what I mean? You haven't really.
Well, the weather's been nice.
Yeah, it's going to get barbecue. Going to be out of
20 degrees.
Anyway, thanks, Ali. Let's go to Gary in West Sussex. Gaz.
Hi, Gaz.
Hi, Ash. Hi, Andrew. Yeah, I'm okay. I was going to say that when you were arguing all this about the Middle East and all the rest of it, all the people that have denoted the Bible, etc., etc., that they wrote it according to what they believe. We can't possibly know whether or not that was true.
Yeah, but you got to pick one. It's like a raffle, isn't it? One of them's got to be right.
So what do you believe?
Anyway, thanks, Gary. Let's go to Mark. Let's go to Mark. Very wise words. Let's go to Mark in London. Mark, what do you want to talk about?
Hello, Ash. How you doing,
All right,
mate?
man. All right, man. What do you want? What's up,
going back to Bible Basher Ken.
Yes.
Is he on another planet or something? If an 11-year-old gets molested, they should have the baby.
Well, he did say if there's medical problems, which there probably would be with an 11-year-old, that he would agree to it.
But
so
not all the time.
And he didn't have an answer
to
to the 6 babies. I think her name was Woodward, and I think she's actually died now. But there was a case for abortion to save lives there. There were 6 babies. They said if we've got to abort some or they'll all die, and she didn't. She left it in God's hands, and they all died. So medical intervention, which Ken is all for, he was sort of caught up there, wasn't he?
Yeah, I remember that. And the other thing is, going back to that
only 2 minutes ago.
You
should have been able to remember that, you know what I mean? It wasn't like... Anyway, sorry, go on.
Yeah, that Moore one who's supposed to be the
ex-Marine.
An army veteran.
I don't know if he was. He didn't seem it, but he says he was. He didn't seem like a Marine quality.
We had that teardrop. I don't know.
That means you killed someone, doesn't it?
I don't know.
Anyway, Mark, thanks for